Thompson not here.
Is she not made it on?
She might not have made it on.
I'll give her a call.
Okay. I will tell you, I didn't really realize that it started at 9 instead of 10 until Rebecca reminded me. So she might not, or she might just be running a little bit late. Okay, Mr. Nimick is here. Dr. White.
Here, Francis White here.
Okay, and Mr. Clemens is here as well.
Here.
Okay, very good.
And Miss Thompson's jumping on now. I think you were right. She probably didn't realize it.
And
Yeah.
Mr. Nimick is here.
Okay. All right. We do have a quorum. And we've got a full agenda today. So we'll try to work through these in a timely way. Becky, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am, we did not receive any.
Okay, very good. All right. It's now time to review and approve the minutes. I hope that you've had the chance to review those. Are there any changes, corrections, anything that needs to be made to the minutes? If not, would someone move to accept the minutes?
Francis.
Okay,
Francis.
go ahead.
I move that the minutes for the regular board meeting held on May 20, 2022 be approved as written.
Okay, very good. Second?
Second, Bob Clemens.
Okay, very good. And I vote to approve those. Ms. Thompson, when she gets on, we'll have to ask her. Mr. Nimick? Dr. White?
Yes, for approval, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Clemens?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, very good. So we have 3 board members that voted to approve. So that passes. Okay, so now we're going to move into the information items. And so the first item on there would be the district strategic planning for the school years 2023-24 through 25-26. And we have Kiara Hughes from Yes Prep Public Schools, Director of Organizational Strategy, Initiatives, and Culture.
And
And how do you say your name? Is it Kiara?
That's correct. You got it on the
Okay,
money.
very good. Well, welcome.
And
Thank
Dr. Putzka, if I may, Ms. Hughes, just kind of a quick introduction. Ms. Hughes worked with us 2.5 years, about 2 years ago, in developing our current strategic plan. She was a consultant that I ran into at the charter school conference, the state charter school conference that year, 2019, correct, Ms. Hughes?
Yep, that's right.
And so I was impressed with her presentation. She was a presenter at the charter school conference. And so we contracted with her to work on our strategic plan. And so as we enter the final year of the strategic plan, of the 3-year strategic plan, I wanted her to visit with the board and share with them her recommendations for next steps as we prepare to develop the next 3-year strategic plan.
Okay, very good.
Thank you all for having me back. A lot's changed since then. I saw Dr. Anderson at this past year's conference, and since the last time I saw the board, I have also had a baby and bought a house and all of the things. So I'm excited to start into this new phase too. I just want to talk through a couple objectives. Becky, you can slide through the next slide. A couple of things I want to touch on today, review the timeline for development of the future strategy. So what goes into the strategy and allowing enough time at the end for implementation ahead of the next school year. I think a few grounding principles that will allow us to guide the strategic planning process so that as we begin the process, we're all on the same page. And importantly, discuss the role of the board of directors in the development of the strategic plan. So essentially, the way I think about this is in 4 parts. There's this baseline that happens over the summer and early into the fall, which is like, where is RMA now? What are some initial brainstorms about what the next phase could look like? And how do we support that with a data collection? So this is like pie in the sky, what happens? And is there data to support both the current state analysis and the initial brainstorm? The second part is stakeholder input from the executive team, from the principal, and from the staff. When we did this 2.5 years ago, we did specifically one-on-one interviews with the executive team and principals, and we did an all-staff survey to incorporate their feedback on what they think should be incorporated in the strategic plan. Then we go into the refinement phase, and that is, now that we have all of this information, how do we take that into and build out true initiatives? Like what happens in year one? And then data grounding and support to support the metrics. So here we are now, here's where we want to go. What metrics do we need to support to know that we're successful? And what is a realistic metric of success? And then lastly, we build out the actual true deliverables of the plan. And so ideally by early spring, so that there's time to socialize that. So that'll be the initiative mapping. So what is the goal? What are the underlying initiatives? And what is the metric of success? And so that'll be a roadmap and the true deliverable. So that's a one-pager and a full-on plan that builds out narrative as well. A few guiding principles. So this plan should be rooted in data. Both available data, there will be some data we don't have, but to answer the questions about what should be, where should RMA go next, it should all be grounded in data. Organizational readiness is a large one. There will be initiatives that people will ask for that will be important to the future of RMA that may not make it into this particular plan. It should be aspirational, but also pragmatic. So as we're going through this process, we will do a ready, willing, and able analysis to say, is RMA ready to implement this? Is there organizational willingness? And is there true ability, both financially and personnel-wise, to implement any initiative? A phased approach. We are coming out of a 2 to 3 year pandemic, however you want to count the years, but there's been so much change over the last few years that change will need to be phased and cascaded to avoid initiative fatigue, both on the staff side and also on the student side. A lot of change sometimes feels unstable. So how do we push the organization forward while also remaining thoughtful of overburdening people with change? And then lastly, the strategic plan will be focused on some big rocks goals. What is truly going to be impactful and move the organization forward? So there will be some keep the lights on work, as I like to call it, that won't be captured in the strategic plan. There will be some basic cleanup work that won't be captured in the strategic plan. But what the strategic plan will capture is where you want the organization to go and what are the huge and most impactful levers to get you there. And lastly, the role of the board, I see it as twofold. One, bringing your external perspective and landscape analysis, your years of expertise, both with RMA and outside of RMA, to say, this is what's happening, this is what I've seen, this is where I want us to go. So that visioning piece. And that second piece is the governance and accountability to make sure the plan is being implemented. Strategic plans are flexible. They are not necessarily, I say like written in stone. They aren't tablets, they're flexible. So that governance and accountability is more of a art versus a science in terms of where you allow flex as you discover more across the plan. So essentially, these are the two roles of the board. And so I look forward to getting to know all of the new board members and working with RMA over the next year.
Okay. Well, thank you. And are there any questions? I assume that is that all that you wanted to present, Kira?
Yep, that's all I have.
Okay, very good. I didn't want to cut you short. And hello, Rose. I'm glad that you were able to join us.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this will be a very exciting time, and and it's important for the good of the organization to look forward and make some plans. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did anyone have any other questions for Ms. Hughes? Okay. And we'll be getting some concrete dates worked out with Ms. Hughes as we did in the last cycle to meet with the board and the executive team to lay out some of the framework and then kind of establish marching orders to start filling in the information we need.
And it's also good to, if at all possible, to work with the same person each time you work on your strategic plan. I think that gives continuity to it as she gets to know the organization, and she will remember what you said last time and each time thereafter. So very good. Okay. Are we
Thank you,
ready?
Ms. Hughes.
Are we ready to move on to this strategic plan update year 2 initiatives? Dr. Anderson?
Yes, good morning, board members. As customary, we try and give a strategic plan update at least 2 or 3 times per year, school year. And so at this time, we would like to provide the board with an update on the strategic plan initiatives for we're in year 2, of the strategic plan. And so at this time, each priority, we had 4 priorities, which were the academic performance, enrollment, student culture, and support systems. And so at this time, I would call on Dr. Givens to provide us with an academic performance update as far as the strategic plan, followed by Carrie Ring, and then Christina and Amy Woods. So Dr. Givens.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello, everyone. Okay, this is the update for the strategic plan for academics and the standardized lesson plans. We completed the goal for the 21-22 school year. All of our EOC courses had standardized plans provided by the academics department. Also in the focus district instructional priorities, we worked a lot on this. We put all of our all of our professional developments into Eduphoria to keep up with all of our professional developments. We had our calendars updated as far as professional developments. We tracked our professional development needs. We made assessments of our staff and based on our principals of what their campuses needed. And then for the instructional leadership, one reason why I'm here in Lubbock is because we continued our relationship with Texas Tech University to provide leadership support for our principals this year. They've had over 6 3-hour workshops throughout the year, as well as every single campus was visited by Texas Tech to provide leadership and insight. They have been instrumental in helping us with our targeted improvement plans. So are there any questions in regards to the academics and the strategic plan?
I have none.
The academic framework that's been laid out, I haven't shared with the board yet, but we will be sharing with you all probably around July or sometime there. There's now going to be a dropout recovery school accountability system that's going to be implemented by TEA. And this CCMR and all of these things that we are putting in place is going to help tremendously with our campuses starting in the 23-24 school year, become more B's and C, A and B rated campuses. So I think that the work that's going into the strategic plan as far as the academic priorities are going to be a tremendous results in the near future. Thank you, Dr. Givens.
Thank you.
Carrie? Is Carrie on?
Yes, she's getting on.
And while she does that, let's move on. Christina, are you ready?
Well, if I can get my video to start going. There,
Okay.
there it goes.
We'll come to Carrie after Christina. So Carrie, be ready when Christina stops.
So for the student culture priorities, we are continuing to put things in place to recruit, retain, and develop our new and existing staff. This year at Convocation, we are going to implement our employee service recognition program. For our diversity and cultural competency, as Dr. Gibbons was mentioning, our partnership with Texas Tech, that has gone to great lengths to help.
Hold on, Christina. Becky, could you scroll to the proper slide? You're on enrollment. We need to be at the, thank you.
Yes,
Page
my
21.
apologies.
The partnership we have with Texas Tech has helped provide a program to push strong diversity and cultural competency for our administrators. For our family and community engagement, all of our campuses have held several different events on campus and some even off campus to help increase that engagement. For our culture of high achievement, we are continuing to push our MOUs with local colleges and have started several different programs to help the students get different certifications. We're doing our TSI testing, which is Texas Success Initiative testing. And then for our student voice, there is now a leadership council that has been created on each of our campuses. Does anybody have questions?
And I would like to say on the student voice, I was very impressed. We've had student ambassadors at the campuses that have shared their stories with congressional leaders. We've hosted a number of House congressional leaders, both at the state level, and we've hosted quite a few city officials this year. And the students have shared their stories with these legislators as they've come to the campuses, and it's been tremendous. In fact, Dr. Bradley, is that right, Carrie Bradley? Buckley?
Dr. Buckley.
Buckley was at the Killeen campus, and he was so touched by the students' testimonies that he's invited the students to the State House down in up in Austin, or down in Austin from Killeen, and in order to sit on the House floor and to share their stories with legislators. At the graduation, he spoke at the Killeen graduation and shared that this model needs to be in every district. I told Kerry that he should have been saying that there needs to be an RMA in every district, but nonetheless, that's been greatly a great part. And then the culture of high achievement. Again, you know, Dr. Givens and the academic team have brought the College Bridge programs to the district, as well as we have built those certification programs with Mr. Showers, which you'll hear more about that later. But we're really starting, you know, a lot of people thought, well, our kids aren't prepared for College Bridge. We had some folk inside the organization that made those statements, but we've made believers out of them. We've had quite a few. Dr. Givens, how many College Bridge students, graduates did we have this year?
We have over 113 students who
College
receive College Bridge course credit.
And
Yes.
would you share with the board what that College Bridge means for our students?
Oh, absolutely. What College Bridge is, and I'll expound on it, of course, in our report for HB3. It's a component of HB3, which is the CCMR, which is College, Career, and Military Readiness. And what it is courses that prepare students. If they pass this course by the state, they are deemed as being college ready for math and language arts. So should they go to any college, junior college, community college, they will be exempt from having to take remedial math and language arts. When they complete Texas College Bridge, they're provided with their certificate that goes directly to the student, not to the campus, and they simply present it. We are under a MOU through Region 20, and we are participating with over 40 colleges throughout the state of Texas.
Thank you. All right.
And also, I will say, it was a part of the T-Class grant that was offered last year by TEA.
Okay. Any questions for Christina?
Yeah.
All right. Then if not, Carrie?
Good morning. I apologize for the delay. I'm going to be going over the strategic priorities for enrollment, communications and marketing. And for goal number 1, which would be our enrollment toolkit, we created new marketing materials as needed for our initiative. And
Hold
we
on,
can
Carrie. Becky, could you go to the proper? Thank you.
Okay, we continued with our community outreach, and within our community outreach for our SCLs, we've also added tabling events for the Boys and Girls Clubs and the YMCAs in each prospective market. So they're going to be focusing on these initiatives that Dr. Anderson got together with to come up with some new ideas to kind of take a fresh approach to loop in and bring some different students to our area. For the centralized marketing campaign, we did develop an annual marketing plan. We rolled out our new main district website and then new websites for all 9 campuses. We're continuing with our Friends of RMA, and we've created and cultivated the partnerships with different businesses, including Frost, Randolph Brooks, and Epic. We have been running Facebook, Instagram, and Google ads, and we've been finding prospective parents using our filters through these avenues, using Hulu to advertise, and then a content calendar for these social media outlets. We've increased our email correspondence with local school districts and the community. And we're also running a campaign in Corpus through a brand new commercial with Telemundo and CBS. And they're also going to be doing with the same company some different online marketing with that commercial. So that's going to help in that area as well. As Dr. Anderson stated, we've had state representatives and some local city officials that have visited our campuses. We did complete the basketball court branding with our partnerships, and we have scheduled a ribbon cutting with the chamber in Corpus. It was completed at the very end of this year, but we do want to loop the students in to that so that they can be a part of that celebration. So we are going to do it at the beginning of the school year in once August and once they return to class. Pasadena has initiated a community council night, which is something that's bringing the community members in and giving them a voice and assisting with different issues and allowing them to provide ideas. For our student support services to reduce the dropout and focus on retention, we have.
Well, Carrie, could I chime in on the centralized marketing?
Sure.
One of the things that's not there is we've made a concerted effort to do press releases. Anything that happens at any of our campuses, we send a press release out to the news outlets, and it's proven to be beneficial. A lot of this we're testing in the Corpus markets, but when Corpus has made the news on several occasions, and one of them, the latest, was when they did a news clip on Corpus about the partnership with Del Mar College. And when they ran that about the certification, the phlebotomy and EKG certifications at Corpus, I believe Jim and Sylvia shared with me that the next day or two, we had 75 people, around, well, 50 something people, excuse me, go in and submit application to the Corpus campus. So it's proven to be effective. And as we get these same partnerships in our other locations and the news outlets, we're trying to run commercials in all 9 cities eventually. So I think that it's going to be very beneficial, and that's been the task that Carrie has been charged with for the summer to set that up, those advertisement venues up so that we can run them over the summer and get our enrollment up at the schools all over the state.
Yes. Okay, so moving on to support services to reduce the dropout rate and focus on retention. We've increased our student surveys. And then we have a biannual retrieval of feedback with needs assessments. And we provide this in person at each campus, and also with the creation of a task force. And that would be by speaking with the students and the staff directly, and also by collecting this with written surveys. We have communication training at the principals retreat, and then the Texas Tech project in partnership. And then for our onboarding system through SOS, we still have our contract with Harris, and that includes our existing student onboarding system, and that's extended through the 21-22 school year. And then we've pushed our rollover for Ascender to the fall of the 22-23 school year. And then that would conclude what I have, as condensed as I could possibly make it. If anyone has any questions.
No questions, but I do have a comment. I think your job has become more critical as we know that we need to increase the enrollment. So thank you for your efforts.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So we're ready.
All right, good morning. I'm going to review the, hold on one second. Did you turn off your speaker? All right, sorry, I was getting a little feedback. So I'm going to review the support systems and processes priority on page 22 of the board book. Under this priority, we had 3 goals set for our strategic plan. The first goal is the change management document and timeline. So we got a lot of feedback asking for some kind of document explaining why changes are happening, why there's changes to policies, procedures, and we have completed this goal. We have an internal document now that whenever a procedure or a policy is updated or a new policy comes into place, the owner of that document will fill out this form, and if anyone ever has questions as to why or who put it out, we have that now in place. So that is completed. The principals cabinet, we wanted to make sure we were getting feedback from the principals as well as the campuses. And so we have been meeting 3 to 4 times a year, discussing procedures, policies, anything that could be changing. We really want to make sure that we're getting the buy-in from the campuses. So we've been meeting with them. We've talked about HR procedures, internal transfers, promotions, change management documents, and we have another meeting planned for July. So we are on track with that goal. And then goal number 3 for the support systems is a central document repository. So we do have a system in place. We utilize SharePoint and Microsoft. And so every department, every person builds their files, and they share everything they save everything in SharePoint, so that way it can be accessed across the district. And that is completed. Something that we will continue is to ensure that training is being done for everybody, so that way all staff knows how to utilize SharePoint. So any questions for support systems and processes priority?
no questions, but again, a comment for me. It sounds to me like you're doing a lot to standardize, and these are some things that are available at other schools, and I'm very glad that you're in the process of implementing these. I think it would be beneficial. Any questions? Any other comments? If not, let's move on to school board goals, superintendent's evaluation of performance. Dr. Givens.
Hello. Okay, we're going to be looking at the HB3 school board goals, annual monitoring report, the superintendent's evaluation of performance report. We met back in November, and we went over points 1, 2, and 3. So today we will do point number 4, which is superintendent's evaluation of performance, supporting documents that evidence the evaluation and describes any needed steps. Okay. All right. As you know, House Bill 3, college, career, and military readiness plans are required to include annual goals of aggregated student growth on CCMR readiness indicators evaluated under the student achievement domain, and annual targets for students in each group evaluated under the closing the gap domain. The HB3 board goals were developed last year on January the 14th, 2021. Okay. Our goals are college readiness, which is the ACT, SAT, TSI, AP, and dual credit. Career readiness, which are our industry-based certifications, special education, workforce ready, and military readiness. Based on enlisting. As you all know, or I might have stated before, right now the state has suspended the military readiness components for evaluation of campuses and districts. Okay. What we have here are the goals that were accepted and adopted by the board on January the 14th on 2021. If you look at the top, it has that each, hold on, I'm trying to get my screen where I can see. I'm sorry. Each year for 21, the goal was 24. For the current year of 2022, the goal was 27. 23, the goal is 31. And in 25, the goal is to be at 39. That is the goals that were adopted. I am very happy and proud to say that we are at 50%. The district has surpassed its stated goal for 2022. I have the goals that were set by sub-pops. The goal for African American was set at 34. We are at 48. The goal for Hispanic was set at 25. We are at 57. The differences are at the bottom. The goal for white was set at 24. We are at 45. The goal for special ed was set at 68. We were at 61. This is the only sub-pop that we did not meet our goal. And the goal was set at 26. We were at 52. For English language learners, the goal was set at 18. We are at 70 enrolled. That simply means someone who was enrolled with us last year and this year. The goal was set at 7, and we are at 31.
Dr. Givens, you're muffled.
Can you hear me?
You're a little muffled, but yes, we can hear you, but you're kind of breaking up.
Okay, let me.
That's better.
Okay. Okay, better?
Yes.
Okay. For non-continuously enrolled, and that's for a student who was not with us last year, but was with us this year, the goal was 20, and we are at 62. Okay. we are 23 percentages higher than our stated goal of 27. Are there questions about the goals and how we actually performed? Okay. Next slide is CCMR Progress Measure 1. This is students who completed a college ready course.
Becky, I think you're a slide ahead of her.
Okay. It's been suggested I turn my video off. That might help. Let me see. Okay, is that better? Do I sound better without the video?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay, next is the CCMR Progress Measure 1. This is the college prep courses. This is the one that Dr. Anderson was speaking about earlier. Our district, as you can see, these are the goals that were set by the district last year in January. Our district did not have very high goals for college prep courses because our district didn't offer college prep courses. But this year we did, and 28% of our seniors had a college, successfully completed a college prep courses. So, you know, because our district had no college prep courses, the goal was 0. That was set by the district last year, but below are the actual percentages based on sub-pops for each of, for college prep courses. Our big college prep course, of course, came from the Texas College Bridge Partnership, which was a part of the T-Class grant that we accepted last year. And as a result, again, 28% of all of our seniors received college prep credit. African Americans, by sub-pops, it was 17% for African Americans, 32% for Hispanic, 32% for white, 20% for special ed, 27% for econ dis, 39% for English learners, 32% for continuously enrolled, and 25% for non-continuously enrolled. Any questions about the college prep courses?
So
Okay.
college prep is not college credit, is it?
No, college prep is not college credit. What it is
Okay.
are classes that are meant to prepare students to be successful in college.
College. Okay, thanks.
Dual credit would be your college credit courses.
Right. Okay.
Mhm. Next is CCMR Progress Measure 2. These are students that are earning industry-based certification or completed an IEP with transition will increase from 5% to 13% by August of 25. So again, these were the targets that were approved by the district last year in January. Last year in January, the target was for this year, the target was only 7%. And we, as a district, 27% of our seniors have a industry-based certification. The goals here are at the top. The goal for African American was 10, we had 39%. The goal for Hispanic was 7, we're at 29%. The goal for white was 4, we're at 20%. The goal for special ed was 44, we were at 48%. The goal for econ dis was 7, we're at 28%. The goal for English language learners was 15, we're at 32%. The goal for continuously enrolled was 3%, we're at 20%. And the goal for non-continuously enrolled was 4%, and we were at 47%. Last year, we had 31 students who obtained a industry-based certification. This year, we had 152 students. And again, as a result, we had 27% of all of our students obtaining a industry-based certification. Again, well exceeding the target from January of 21. The vast majority of our industry-based certifications were through the efforts of our CTE coordinator, Mr. Showers, providing OSHA certification opportunities to our students. Are there questions? Okay, then I'll go on to the next. Can you go back one more? There you go. Thank you. This one is just basically an overview of what we just of the overall performance. It's very much like the first slide where it's showing that we were at 50% and the district's goal was 27%. Okay. At the bottom, it shows the campuses. And I basically took this slide that the state provides, and that's what I used, but I do have each campus, so it'll be a little bit easier for you to read in the next following slides. Okay. So the next slide, please, is the target table. When it comes to CCMR, it's all about sub-pops and targets and meeting targets. So what I did, I wanted you all to see what the target is for the state, okay, for each sub-pop. And then what I have here, as you scroll through, is each campus has the highlighted, if they met the target, I've highlighted it in green. Okay. In consideration of time, I'm not going to go through. I just wanted you to know what those greens were. That meant they met the target. Okay. Okay. Becky, if you could scroll to the last, there we go, to the last one, which is the district. So you could see how the district would perform with targets. There you go. Thank you. And that would be how many targets the district would meet. Okay. All right. And then next are the
So, Dr.
recommendations
Givens,
for next.
the ones that's not highlighted in green, what does that like for white and American Indian? What does that signify?
That signifies that we didn't quite meet that target, or yes, because for white, I want to say it is 50-something%.
Okay.
And for American Indian, we probably don't have enough students. Hold on, let me see. I can look. For white, the target is 58%. And for American Indian, it's 42%. So that means we did not meet that target. And for continuously enrolled, it is 50%. Okay, so we're very close to having a full, meeting all the targets, but this is currently what we would have.
Tell me what continuously enrolled means.
Absolutely. Continuously enrolled means that they were enrolled with us last year and they're enrolled with us this year.
Okay.
Okay.
And so given the mobility of our students, Dr. Givens, I'm assuming given the mobility of our students is one of the things that kind of hinders that.
Well, I don't know if it's a hindrance. It's just that if you want to know what it means to be continuously enrolled, means that you were here at the snapshot date last year and you were here this year. And so there's a higher accountability. If you look at the target is 50%. The state holds you at a higher rate if you have a student with you continuously. Whereas a non-continuously enrolled means that they were only with us this year. And so the target is lower, it's 31%.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, next are just the recommendations that we're planning on doing. We want to keep the momentum up for CCMR because there's a year's lag. And so we, of course, want to expand our Texas College Bridge program. That's our college prep program. This year, we only did it for terms 3 and 4. Next year, of course, it will be for the entire year, terms 1 through 4. Okay. We want to continue expanding on our industry-based certification offerings. We had students that did earn certification in the Microsoft and other CTE programs, and we want to continue to grow that. One way we're growing that, of course, is by continuing with our MOUs. These are the MOUs that were added this school year. We, of course, had Lone Star for Houston, Tarrant County for Fort Worth, and Del Mar College for Corpus Christi. But Texas College Bridge is under a MOU with Region 20. And that MOU, again, for Texas College Bridge extends to over 40 colleges statewide. And then last but not least, we're entering a MOU with Prairie View A&M University. And with that one, they will be providing us scholarships, at least 5 $3,000 scholarships for our students who meet minimum entry requirements. And with that, they will also be giving us resources and providing us workshops to help our students and our parents learn more about college and the opportunities that the Prairie View University can provide.
Very
Are
good.
there any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm so pleased with this. This has been one of my pet peeves, and I see the progress, and I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So just a general question about the scholarships from Prairie View. Would they be for students from any of our campuses, not just the ones in the
Yes.
Houston area?
Yes,
Okay, good.
Absolutely. These are district-wide scholarships. There are 5. And you know, what I do like is, let's say we pick 5 good candidates. Like, they have to be in the top 25% of their class for the campuses that they're on. They have to have a minimum, I believe, of a 3.0 GPA, and they have to have like about a 18 on the ACT test and about an 850 on the SAT test. So let's say we get a student that qualifies, but let's say they qualify for a higher scholarship with Prairie View. Well, if they qualify for a higher scholarship, then we get to keep that scholarship and give it to yet another student on with RMA. And so it's not based on, we put all the RMA kids basically in a pot, and we can give it to any student, you know, in the district. So these are district-wide opportunities.
Thank you so much.
Very good.
Okay.
And I'll say this too, Mr. Showers and I, we met with Lone Star in Houston with the chancellor there, Dr. Head, and they've pretty much said they have a cosmetology program and barber certification program we're working on at the Houston location. And they've basically said, because of our economically disadvantaged numbers, that they can pretty much give them free access to that certification program. So we met with them about a week or 2 ago. I was there in Houston, and that proved to be beneficial. So we're really trying to get these programs in place that are relevant to meet the needs of our students.
Very good.
And I guess the last thing I would like to say, as far as all of our CCMR efforts, and this right here, what you're looking at is actual documentation of the Texas College Bridge. So wherever you see a pass, that's where they passed their essay. Wherever you see a met is where they met the requirement to be considered college ready. Is that there's a year's lag. So all this work that we're doing this year will actually help us with our next year's accountability rating and our renewals evaluation.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any questions? You know, it's good to see that you're collecting the data that you are, because sometimes you do good things, but they go unnoticed because you don't have, you've not collected the data. And so this is good. It's good to see that not only are you making progress, but you're able to capture it.
Thank you.
So are we ready for the next item?
Thank you, Dr. Givens.
So Dr. Anderson, you want to talk to us about the updated district organizational chart?
All right. There is no major changes. I just wanted to let the board know that we had updated the organizational chart to reflect that Dr. Givens is now the Executive Director of Academics. And so that places her over Jim Pollock as the Director of Special Projects, as well as James Kirksey, the Director of Special Populations. And so we've updated that. And also the other change was to Amy Woods. You know, for years, she's been called the Director of Child Nutrition. However, her proper role is really that of student services. She works a little bit with safety and security. She works with the SCLs, the school community liaisons. She works with the food programs. And so I think to accurately reflect her true role, instead of being that of Director of Child Nutrition, would be more appropriately captured if we change that title to Director of Student Services. And so we've made that change in the organizational chart. Might there be any questions from the board?
No question from me.
I think that's appropriate because Amy is all over the place in so many pots. So I think that's an excellent
Yes.
recommendation.
And that concludes that. It's for informational purposes only. Thank you, Dr. Putzker.
Okay, very good. Is it time? Are you ready to step into the annual State of the District report?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
First of all, I would like to start with just giving my traditional district update and thanking a few people before we get into the heart of the annual report. I'm very excited about the approach that we took this year. We provided the board with an actual annual report. And as Dr. Putzker said it best, data, capturing the data and the numbers. And so I hope that we did a decent job in our first go around for the board, giving you the actual annual report, which Becky sent out to you. I requested that the district personnel put in graphs, charts, pictures to show you. You know, it's one thing for us to just tell you what we're doing, but the numbers and the data and the graphs, hopefully it really validated the work that we're doing here at RMA. And so, you know, it's really no light task, the work that we do. I shared with Mr. Tanton yesterday at lunch that one of the issues that RMA is running up against is that the mandates, you know, the mandates from the state are increasing constantly. And the central office staff is not increasing, it's staying the same. And so everyone is really working hard and everyone is stretched thin. And so my hat's off to all of the district personnel. You know, I realize that we can't pay them enough. I realize we can't thank them enough. But the work they do, I do want the board to know and understand and sympathize that it is a very challenging. You know, I was here some years ago, and the requirements from the state, it just continues. It's grown probably double that of when I was last year. And so, I mean, the reporting, the interventions, the mandates that the legislator just constantly passes without any reflection on, these are things schools are already required to do. And so it's becoming tighter and tighter with the staff that we have. And so I truly thank all of our district personnel for the work they do. As far as the attendance, I did want to share with the board that as of June 9th, enrollment had decreased from 1627 to 1567. It was a 60 student decrease from the last board meeting. ADA as the end of the year was at 72.7%, which was giving us about 1,139 students, which was down about 0.3% from the last report that we provided to the board. And retention was at 50.8%. Which was lower than the 54.6% from the last report. And enrollment had increased or remained stable since August. However, between March and June, we experienced about a 1% decline in enrollment. And then I just want to remind the board that, COVID has, it's still playing a part. Students got out of the norms of going to school, and now it's kind of like trying to recapture them, get them back, and doing it on a consistent base. And so we're working really hard to address that. As Carrie alluded, we're running commercials in Corpus. We're looking at running more commercials. In other areas, we're looking at billboards. We've asked the DICs to work with principals to reach out for the dropouts for local school districts. And we're trying to be more strategic in, thanks to the help of Ms. Thompson's recommendation of running our recruitment and enrollment ads when the districts start to do theirs. And so we're doing a lot of alignment and things like that as well. As far as ADA, thank goodness we've managed to operate in a consistent and frugal way that is going to lead to a surplus, which Tammy will talk about. The district will end the year in a surplus. We won't end the year in a deficit. If you remember, some months ago, I shared with the board to brace for a potential deficit at the end of the year. But we're thankful that we were able to get the PPP loan, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, finalized and reflected in our budget, which gave us about $500,000 surplus for the school year. So we're glad about that. And Tammy will talk about that more. The other thing is we're glad that we have the ESSER funds because Jim and Dr. Givens and I, we've worked very diligently to move things over to, and Tammy, we've worked to move things over to ESSER as much as we could. That was a lot of money from the federal government. And so we've tried to recapture things in the ESSER funds as much as we could. And as and so that's been a big relief. However, we've strayed away from paying salaries out of ESSER because, again, the commissioner advised that, not to do that because of the simple fact that once that money's gone, those positions could be done away with. So we've worked very diligently not to put actual salaries and staff up with that money. As I've said before to the board, we are working with Eddie Trevino, who is a gentleman that helped the Khan Academy secure around $36 million over 6 years. And so we're hoping, we've really been doing the work, getting all of the things in place to get him to work with us. And we signed the contract for him to do one grant. And based on how that goes, we may pay him to do more for us. So we'll hopefully by August, we'll be able to have some grant money in place. And I shared with Eddie that I need money to pay people. So he's working on that for us. And then just a reminder on page 72, we have the ESSER funds the amounts that we have and what that's been appropriated to. Are there any questions to this point? Okay. Then the district staffing. There are currently 28 vacant positions across the district. up from 14 positions at the last board meeting. As you know, district salaries are going up tremendously, and it's becoming more and more challenging for RMA to compete. It's no secret that our district in Houston is not even at 50,000, and Houston ISD, I think when Dr. Gibbons last reported, is going to be starting at 61. So we have some significant challenges regarding that. And we have and we're working to try and figure out some creative ways to address it. And I'll talk about some of the things that we're putting in place to somewhat help. But the final answer is actually, and I've said this to the district principals over and over again, the more students we have, the higher our ADA is, the more competitive we can be. And so I'm pleading with principals to help us. I'm working with Carrie to do all that we can to get students in the seats. I share with all district personnel that, people don't realize, unfortunately, it doesn't become a real issue, a personal issue, until it starts to affect people's paychecks. And the 15th or the 30th come and there's no check, then they'll say, oh, something's not right. But hopefully it never gets to that point. And that's the whole point that I press with the principals is let's be proactive and not reactive. And so, being spread out across the state, we're very dependent on the relationships and the partnerships that principals build. We can only do so much advertising here, but it's actually those relationships and the way the students feel when they get to the campus. And so we're at 86% capacity across the district. We're losing quite a bit of our SPED staff this year. As you can see, Mr. Kirksey, who is our Director of Special Ed, has decided to move on. And so we certainly thank him for his service here at RMA for the past number of years. He's been in that director position, I believe, about 1.5 years. And so we're thankful for him. Mr. Gonzalez Leandro has decided he wants to get back in the classroom and do coaching and all of that. And so we wish him well also. And so Melissa Hernandez, who was also part of an LSSP, has moved on. And we have some people at the campus level as well. And so we've asked the principals, the DICs are working to set up teaching interviews. We've had good responses. So we do have applicants, and the DICs have been setting those up. Principals have been working with their DIC. So we're interviewing people, and we've done some things to try and help. One of the things is that we are offering a $3,000 sign-on bonus for all new teachers. That's coming out of the ESSER funds. That was one of the things that was allowable out of the ESSER grant money. So we're going to be offering $3,000 for all new teaching staff. So we started advertising that on the website, and that'll be paid out through the course of the year for that. So we will be offering a $3,000 sign-on bonus. Also, we've raised the retention bonus to $4,000 for returning teachers. So any teacher that returns with us, they will get a $4,000 retention bonus. They would get $2,000 around September, October, and $2,000 around January or February. We would pay that. So hopefully that incentivizes, and we've let all of our staff know that as well. And so those are some of the things that we're doing to combat the district teaching issues. And then just the COVID, since the beginning of the school year, on page 74, RMA has logged 315 positive COVID cases for 9 campuses. And so we've done pretty good addressing the COVID issue and not having a major breakout. So we're grateful for that. Last few things that I have is that convocation. The board is invited to join us for convocation. It will take place on Monday, August 8th through Friday, August 12th. It will be virtual. We will be asking the board to join us for that first day, the 8th, that morning, for the kickoff, to bring greetings to the district personnel and to just kind of give an address or have words for the district on that day. So if you would memorialize August 8th in your calendars, so that you can join us for that. Also, you know, we had 354 graduates this year from RMA, which was up from last year. However, you know, we still want to see 500-600 graduate a year. So we want to increase that and hopefully double that going forward. But we were able to have 354 graduates across the district to graduate this year. So, and we thank those board members that participated in the commencement activities, whether you were there for greetings or if you spoke or whatever it may be. And so that's where we are from my standpoint. Are there any questions for me?
I do have one question. Go back to the total enrollment and what did you build the budget on for this year?
We built the budget on 1,207 kids.
And we are currently at
1139.
Okay.
But like I say, with the PPP loan and finalizing that, that allowed us to have a surplus this year.
Okay. All right.
And we're projecting, and when Tammy talks about it, Dr. Putzka, we built our budget for next year on 1448 because we do believe that we'll be able to, with, you know, now that we're past COVID and aggressive advertising, we believe that we'll be able to get our numbers back to that, which it was before COVID. We were around 1430.
Okay. And tell me once again, so the mobility rate of your students is at what? Was it like
50%? We had over 3,500 students come through RMA this year. And that's usually the norm. And so, you know, we talk about in our strategic plan, the culture and climate of the campus, but we're working to address it until we're able to, you know, I shared with some of the central office, you know, we've been this mentality of get more kids in, get more kids in, get more kids in. I shared with them, my philosophy is if there's a hole in the barrel and the water's dripping out and our approach is keep filling the barrel instead of plug the hole, the mentality really needs to be plug the hole. And we've got to figure out how to plug the hole and not just keep putting water into a barrel with a hole at the bottom of it.
Okay, good analogy. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Then at this time, I would like to call on the central office personnel for the annual report. I hope that the board had an opportunity to review the report. Again, the district worked really hard to put this together and to capture the progress and the work that has gone on in the district. And so they will not be going through this page by page. They will hit just quickly the highlights, tell you the good, and then move on. And so they shouldn't be spending any more than a minute. If they do, I'm going to cut them off so that we can get through this. But if the board has any questions about anything that was presented in the report at the end of their little highlight, then please feel free to ask those questions. This time I will start with Tammy in finance.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On page 8 of the report, I would like to talk about the Charter First score for RMA. So for the past 5 years, RMA has achieved a superior rating on our Charter First score, which is something to be very proud of. We've applied that same level of financial accountability to the charter school performance framework. This system was designed to provide parents and the public information about a charter school's performance. And that accountability system includes areas of academics, financials, and operational areas. And on the following page, I would like to talk about the very large fund balance that RMA should be very proud of at $11 million. In very simple terms, the fund balance is an accumulation of revenues minus expenditures, and this goes back to RMA's inception. Over the years, we've built up this fund balance, which goes to show that we are very fiscally responsible. Different levels of business define it with different expectations. But according to TEA, 75 days of operating expenditures would yield you 10 points on your Charter First score, and RMA has more than 3 times that amount in our fund balance. So something to be very proud of. And on the following page, you can see from this pie chart that our expenses are being used primarily in the instruction area, which is what you would expect to see at a school, with 48%. And then following that, we have facility expenditures and then campus leadership in the top areas of expenditures. And then finally, yes, Becky, the revenues. And you can see on that pie chart, 92% of our operating revenue comes from the state as part of our foundation school program allotment. As Dr. Anderson has indicated, we are trying to kind of tweak that percentage in the coming years and see if we can work on getting some more grant funds so that this pie chart looks a little bit different, and we have different areas that we can depend on for revenue. And I believe Mr. Tanton.
I always tell central office Tammy, I tell them we're on welfare, state welfare, and we've got to come off of state welfare and start getting some other sources of revenue in.
One question. You said the fund balance that you have, it exceeds what the state requires. So you have about how many months of operating in your fund balance?
We have 3 times the average. So I would say we have at our last report, we had over 130 days of operating balances in our fund balance.
Okay, so that's okay. So a little over 4 months. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there ever a chance when that gets too out of proportion where you have more than what you need to have to present a clear picture?
There have been talks, I think, from TEA about having too much in fund balance, but I've not seen any of that come to light.
And it has been my experience, every year or every time the legislature meets, they talk about all the money that school districts have in fund balance. Yet at the same time, they're requiring, 75 days. But if you have up to 6 months, that's really a good cushion. And I don't think you have to worry about having too much until you have more than 6 months of operating. So we're still, I would think, still in that area that is not too excessive, but gives you additional cushion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, board. I'd like to speak with you guys this morning about technology, school safety and facilities. And just to let you know, going into this school year, it's been a very challenging year for operations, starting out the school year in a COVID-19 environment, which lasted till about March, and ending the year with a heightened emphasis on safety and security. It has really stressed our resources and our staff in operations. So as Dr. Anderson said, we have struggled with that through the year. However, we have actually been able to make some significant gains in the area of operations. And we'll start with looking at technology. So coming into this year, we were able to add some additional technology, what we like to call endpoint units, which are the units that the staff and the students use at the campuses. We were also able to utilize some E-rate funding to upgrade our network. That was to the tune of about $300,000 to $350,000. And we were able to upgrade our network significantly. With that said, we were also able to keep up with the COVID-19 pandemic by adding some additional hotspots, we were able to reduce our telecommunications cost to the tune of about $100,000 by renegotiating some contracts. And we continue to improve in that area. We're working on that still. And then we've also been able to improve our network cybersecurity by implementing two-factor authentication and some other improvements that have increased our ability to secure our network here at RMA. With that said, the state also implemented a new STAR testing vendor this year that we had to retool all of our devices for. That actually went very well. Testing has gone off pretty much without a hitch this year. So we're happy about that. Looking at the next slide, we in technology serviced over 3,629 IT tickets during the course of the year. And the graph there just shows that the bulk of the work, as you can see, occurs at the beginning of the year when we're preparing for the year. So moving on to safety and security. One of the things that we had to do going into the year was we had a safety, our security vendor that was struggling at the beginning of the year. And so we were able to switch security vendors, and we're in a much better position with our new vendor, Cascadia Global Services. So that has worked out to our advantage. We also were able to utilize a safety and security grant provided by the state to add additional cameras at 5 of our campuses. We've upgraded or we've added to or repaired mag locks at several of our campuses. We replaced a metal detector. We've also added some additional radios and provided some additional COVID-19 information. Moving on down to facilities. So at the beginning of the year, we were able to consolidate 5 of our loans into one tax-free bond. We've used some of our ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds to conclude an HVAC study, and we're getting ready to do some changes there. As Carrie mentioned, the new basketball court in Midland, and we're also working on leases in Midland and Fort Worth. And then also with the COVID-19, we've added some PPE supplies and medical waste disposal, some other things that we had to do this year. So with that, the last slide is just a graph of all of the maintenance tickets that we did this year. So we had about 463 maintenance tickets. Those are a little bit larger in scope than IT tickets. But as stated, we were able to actually make some significant gains in operations this year, despite the challenges that the year threw at us. And we're looking forward to continuing those gains into next year. Any questions? Then Dr. Givens, it's all yours.
Hello. If my volume messes up, I'll just turn off my video. Okay. Just real quick, I just want to let you know that we will not be rated due to Senate Bill 1365. Basically, if a school or district receives a rating of lower than a C, they will not be rated. And because of CCMR being a year's lag, we will not be rated this year for any of our campuses or our district. Okay. Next. We had over 350 graduates this year. Last year we had 305, and this year we had at least 354. When I made this slide, it was 350.
That's what I'm very proud. We have increased course completion this year.
over 28% of our students. We have a.
Dr. Gibbons,
increase.
why don't you turn your camera off? You're starting to break up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, better? All right. Course completion has increased 28%. This is very important. I think a lot of this has to do with the revising of the grading policy
Yes.
and the implementation of bridging our Edgenuity courses, amending them to fit our terms. And again, as more students complete, more students will graduate. Okay, next. STAR performance. I'm not going to go over every single test because I know this is a summary report. I just want to make sure you understand what the report says. The purple is for spring of 22. The green is for fall of 21. So that's this school year. So the green and purple are this school year. And the red is spring of 21 and the blue is fall of 20. So the red and the blue are last year's scores and the green and the purple are this year's scores. With that being said, if we could go to slide number 29, that is a comparison of last year's STAR performance to this year's STAR performance. And overall, we made improvements. First of all, we had a lot more students taking the test. So we improved student participation by 19%. The percentage of students at approaches increased by 9%. The students who met the meets standard increased by 3%. And when you calculate our domain 1 STAR performance, it increased by 8% over last year. Any questions?
I do have a question. So
Yes,
meets means that they met the standard. Masters is like a higher level,
exceeded the standard, right?
right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Next is the college career military readiness. I'm gonna briefly go over this because much of this was covered at the HB3 presentation. But like I stated before, we had no college prep courses offered last year. And this year we had over 113 students who successfully completed a college prep course. And that number is continuously improving because we still have students in summer school that are completing. Okay. I mentioned the MOUs that were added earlier this year. This is TSI. TSI is another, it's a test very similar to the SAT, ACT. Last year, our participation increased by 231 students. Last year, 153 students were tested. This year, it was 384. Again, our industry-based certification was covered in HB3 presentation, but again, last year, 31 students earned an industry-based certification. This year was 152. Our CTE program, and Mr. Showers will later on present a more in-depth presentation about it, but we basically increased our program offerings from 3 to 6, course offerings from 14 to 26, student participation from 268 to 604, and our completion rate increased by 9%. This is the student assistance utilization. Our program wasn't highly utilized, and we are currently actively looking for a more suitable fit for our students' needs. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions? I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I have one question. For what reason did the military readiness drop from our rating?
Well, it's because it's not being calculated by the state. The state said that there was a big discrepancy on the number of students that were being reported by campuses and the number of students that were actually enrolling in military. So right now, there's a moratorium on using that for our accountability.
And Ms.
And since they're-
Thompson, just to add to that, there's a little dispute between the military and TEA. The military isn't willing to report the data to TEA. That's part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Gibbons, but that was what the talk was.
Well, yeah, because but basically what the military is saying is what campuses are, what TEA is reporting to the military, the numbers don't jive, so to speak.
Okay.
Because campuses are reporting a lot of students and then they aren't showing up. So right
Okay.
now, it's not being used.
Okay. And one other comment, I'm so pleased with the new grading policy. I think it's a program that is a program for success, and I really like that. Thank you.
I appreciate your support and you all adopting it. I really do.
All right. Now to my section. Thank you, Lord, for having me today. So the first part is just a few things to want to highlight today. It's just that our ESL numbers continue to stay strong, and we're at 92% compliance with our LPAC folder reviews. Ms. Becky, if you'll go to the next. For dyslexia, there's been a lot of changes this year. We did have an update to the dyslexia handbook in 2021, beginning of this year. And as Carl mentioned, we were able to purchase 50 Microsoft Surface Pros to be utilized for the intervention program, Language Live. You can continue, Becky. And then for interventions, currently, due to the academics, we've been under RDA, results-driven accountability, for some time. But TA was pleased that we were able to increase our EOC passing rates by 6% for ESL students, now called emergent bilinguals, as well as 1% in our special education EOC passing scores. And then you just spoke, Ms. Thompson, about the failures. And so we have a couple of things due to the adopted policy from the board, as well as we have a 3-week progress monitoring system that we put in place for special education students, special pop students. We were able to have a 25% decrease in special education student failure rates for courses, as well as a 32% decrease in failure rates for ESL students or EB students. So we're pleased to announce that to the board. And that is it. And I do appreciate all of the hard work. I do want to say in front of the board that we appreciate all the hard work of the board, as well as our special population staff this year. Has truly been a challenge with the changes and all that's been going on with the dyslexia updates and all of that. We're thankful to our staff. Thank you so much.
I'd like to say one thing to James. I've tracked all of the work and reports you had to present to TEA, and we all came out smelling like a rose. And I appreciate all that work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jim, Sylvia, we're waiting.
And I am here if my camera would work. And so I am reporting on student attendance. I was afraid of that. I just saw that my data is not there. I do have it on my slide though. But as far as attendance and enrollment, the average daily attendance after the pandemic, it is showing signs of improving. Although enrollment's down, attendance has increased. It's the top left slide, but from 68.4% to 74.2%. based on our enrollment. So it is showing signs of improving. We're hoping to increase it quite a bit more this coming school year as things get back to normal. And then total enrollment compared to the retention, it is showing signs of also improving back from the start of 4 years ago when it was at 54.8%. And this is the top right slide. We're back to that after the pandemic, but it's showing signs of students are staying longer, especially with the grading policy that's been implemented. Students seem to appreciate that. It gives them another opportunity to increase their academic achievement and their overall grades. So they don't feel trapped if they missed school or if they got a low grade, they have some point where they can improve that. So it is showing signs of improving that as well. The bottom left slide, which is missing some of the bar graphs, but it's showing student interest. So we looked at the student onboarding system, and it's showing information as far as the first day of enrollment, where we start, and then as applications in the online system are filled out by the parents and students, it's showing interest. And so by the 21-22 school year, although you can't see it, we started with an enrollment of 1,087 at the beginning of the school year before all the students' applications were updated and entered into WebSmart. During that process, 2,139 applications were started to be filled out, which is more than or almost double what it was the year before. And then the completed applications total 1,502. So throughout the school year, with all that activity, we ended with 1,566 students. But just looking at the applications that are filled out or started to be filled out by parents, it does show over this past several years that interest in RMA is growing. And then just the bottom right side, I looked at, although it is a lag year, the taper reports, and it's consistent with what we are reporting here today. As far as attendance rate, from the 18-19 to the 19-20 school year, it increased 7%. Chronic absenteeism went down almost 20%. And then the dropout rate dropped 2%. And then the next slide is just how we ended this year, just some demographics.
And Jim, if I may, if you and Carrie would get together on that previous page and get those kind of cleaned up.
Yes,
we send this.
I just noticed it, so I apologize. I thought it was set. Go to the next one, Becky, please. And this is just our year end, but it does identify our typical student throughout the school year. So their enrolled grade level, for the most part, they are a 10th grader. They are an Hispanic student who is male, and then they are identified as economically disadvantaged. But that gives you the breakdown for those 4 demographic categories at the end of this school year. But it is typical of the average for our entire school year. And that's what we have for attendance and enrollment. So.
I do have a question. Whenever, because attrition is an issue, whenever students leave, do you track where they go? Because it makes a difference, like if they're going back to their home campus now that they've gotten some credits, that's, understandable. But do you track what happens to the students when they leave?
And we do. We have a leaver log that is updated by the campuses on a regular basis. And then our PEAMS coordinators, Ms. Koshin, she monitors those leaver logs, but it's the campus's responsibility and the principal's responsibility to continually track down those students, find where they are. If they're still not in school, get them back in school. If it's not RMA, get them back in their regular or local ISD. So yes, we do track it. I think we're going to improve the process for I guess, reporting it periodically throughout the school year. This is why students are leaving. So as Dr. Anderson said, we can plug that hole instead of continually filling it.
And the SCLs, Dr. Puska, they go and try and, our school community liaisons, they try and follow up with the kids. So it's not like we just let them go out the door and do nothing with them.
Right. I'm just kind of curious. For the most part, this when the students leave you, are they dropping out? What happens?
The majority are dropouts. They just stop coming and we no longer hear from them. So tracking those down are more difficult, but we do through the records exchange, we're able to, when a district picks them up, they have to notify us and request records. So that's where a lot of the kids are found. Other than that, when they just stop showing up, we're calling, we're going on Facebook, we are attempting to track them down as best as possible, but it is a difficult task. But for the kids that do upfront tell us that they will be leaving, and this is the reason why those are a lot easier to track, and then we can monitor that to make sure that that was the outcome. But as far as when they just stop showing up, those are the difficult ones. And unfortunately, that's quite a few of our students. They just stop attending, and the SELs try to track them down, the principals track them down, but it is a difficult task.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to jump into student services. Starting off with child nutrition, we had a really good year this year because we were able to utilize the COVID-19 breakfast waiver. So we were able to participate in the seamless summer option, which means we got reimbursed at a higher rate for all breakfasts served. So that we ended the year with a 287 increase in reimbursements from last year. So that really helped us out getting reimbursed at $237 versus $1.97 per breakfast. And we also served 37,945 breakfasts across the district this school year. We were awarded 2 federal equipment grants. So we'll be getting some new reach-in freezers for the Houston and Lubbock campus. And we're also utilizing the Child Nutrition Program Supply Chain Grant to help assist with purchasing milk, fruit, those items right there. So we had a really good year, even though COVID it was hard with the shortage of some of the breakfast items, but I think at the end we did really well. Moving on to McKinney-Vento and foster care. Across the district, we have about 22 McKinney-Vento students. That's how many were reported on Snapshot Day, and 4 foster care students. We provide bus passes. If they need clothing items, we provide that. Shelter, we help locate shelter, food services, whatever they need, we try to assist with. Our SELs are the campus McKinney-Vento liaisons, so they help students be prepared for school and try to get them to come and remove any barriers that they may be coming across. And I'm really excited to announce that I know we presented this to you at the last board meeting, but next school year, we're partnering with T-Mobile and CP3 to provide our McKinney-Vento students with cell phones. One issue that we come across is a lot of our McKinney-Vento students, they stop showing up. We don't have phone numbers for them, so it's really hard to get in contact with them. So one, this is going to help us stay in contact with our McKinney-Vento students and also allow them to continue their education if they are not coming to school. So they'll have access to the internet and hotspots with their cell phones. And then moving on to the next page, our student and community liaisons, as mentioned, they are very busy throughout the school year. Their number one priority is student attendance. So they are looking for ways to remove barriers. As you see, they work with different community partners to help provide rewards for students when they come. They get coupons, they get free pizzas, whatever they can find that students like, they try to partner with those local businesses. So we've worked with Cane's, Taco Bell, Whataburger. So we're really trying to figure out how to get kids to school and really encourage them to come and stay with RMA. They are really big into building those community partnerships. Right now, over the summer, they are working on recruitment and tabling events to help build up our enrollment for the beginning of the school year. Any questions regarding student services?
This not pertaining to the program today, but when we talk about our summer nutrition program, do we have anything going on in that arena?
Unfortunately, since we do not have child nutrition staff on campuses and we don't have kitchen facilities, we do not offer the summer program, feeding program, but we do offer information to our students on where to find those free locations in the community. So we do give them information and how to contact and where to go if they are looking for free meals.
Thank you.
I do have a comment. I know that in San Antonio, I served on the board of a nonprofit that helped the students who were in foster care when they transition out. And they do things like provide bus passes and help them get either a job or started in school and provide a mentor. All this to say that I'm sure there's some nonprofits out there that could also help with some of the services that you're providing. You might want to look at some of those, because I don't know about all the towns where there is a high school, but I would imagine that at least in some of them, at least the major metropolitan area, you might find nonprofits that you could also, that would also help support the mission.
Yeah, so we do work with like Texas Workforce to get, ideas for job opportunities for our students. They help with utility payments. So, and we also work with some of the local churches to get clothing. So it's not all items that we're purchasing for the students, but we are trying to find those resources. But we will look into some of those other nonprofits in the communities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, time for human resources, everybody's favorite slides. So we have 5 locations that are currently above the national retention for the workforce, which is fantastic. We have the distance team that tops that out at 7. And Becky, you can move on to the next one, please.
I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying. I don't know if it's just my computer, but
it might be my headphones. They're a little old.
okay.
So we have 5 different campus locations that retain staff at or higher than the national average.
Okay.
And then Becky, if you'll move on to the next slide, please. As you can see, our retention rate continues to decrease, or I'm sorry, our turnover rate continues to decrease year after year. I was very nervous about this one with all of the back and forth and the teacher shortages, but we seem to be holding great. And Becky, if you'll move on to the next slide, please. All of our the termination by location and the type of termination is very normal and similar to all of the historical data we have. So there's no one campus that has greatly changed or no one type of termination that has greatly changed in the last 4 school years. And then we are seeing an acceptable amount of complaints for our district size. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. And Dr. Anderson went into our vacant positions. His numbers are more updated than when this slide was prepared, but our hiring supervisors are working diligently and quickly to fill these positions with the best possible candidates. And it shows because our average, our teachers have an average experience of 9 years when they're here at RMA or throughout their time with RMA. And almost 75% of our staff are certified, which is not a requirement as we are a charter school. And then we've got a couple of different accomplishments this year. The one I'm most excited about is putting out the Employee Service Recognition Program to help recognize our staff that are here and that have stayed and that continue to stay and support RMA and our students. And that is what I've got. Somebody have questions?
I have one comment. I noticed that a lot of people, I mean, we're so spread out, and I'm wondering what a Zoom job fair would look like for all of our 9 schools if we could consolidate and do something like that.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that. At the request of Dr. Anderson, we're working on putting something like that together right now.
Oh, good. I think it would be cost effective since we are so spread out.
Sure.
And maybe we can get more. Thank you.
Okay, starting with the marketing and communications, many of the things that I have on my slide here were covered during the strategic update. There are a few things that I did want to go over. On the marketing materials side, I did want to highlight the fact that we are increasing our brand awareness, and we are focusing heavily on using standardized templates and unifying our message across the district at all of our 9 locations. We're also doing, and then if you could go back one slide, Becky. We're also providing shirts for every student at the beginning of next year. And that's going to be beneficial because we are going to be focusing on word of mouth advertising for our students. And that will be something that we know that it's worked in the past for RMA, and we think that that's going to be something that's going to assist greatly in getting the school's name out. And we've had feedback actually from Ms. White, and she said that every time she wears an RMA shirt, people stop her and they ask her where the school's located and what they focus on. So we feel like with the students engaging in that conversation, that's going to also help. We've developed an early enrollment campaign. And then when we shift over to our centralized marketing campaigns, we're asking for the principals and the staff to have a lot larger buy-in as far as the marketing program, because it is their market and it's their campus. And so we feel that it will be beneficial for them to have a voice and have the autonomy and to be able to assist with what that looks like for them. And we've received a huge amount of positive feedback when it comes to that. For our website online presence, we're focusing, and we've shifted over to the campus having the ability to promote and build relationships through having their own website. And then they've got the ability to make changes themselves. The principals all have access to their website and their social media accounts. And Dr. Anderson had a really great idea about developing an app so that the parents and the community members are able to interact. So we are currently receiving bids on an app. So on the next slide, we've highlighted a few of our marketing initiatives through this year. You'll notice in the top right-hand corner, that's a picture at our Killeen campus of State Representative Buckley with the students and Dr. Coleman. And then we have our, on the left-hand corner, we have the Pasadena ribbon cutting with all of the people that attended. That was a huge success with our student ambassadors. Underneath is the mayor visit with Dr. Anderson and the principal, Elizabeth Hanna, and that she stayed and even talked about it would be a great option for her own child. She was really excited about being there. We featured some of our grant winners from Amarillo in the bottom corner, and then we have a picture of our basketball court, and then the Corpus graduation. And then the next slide is what was presented at the principal retreat and the benefits of the campuses having their information available to them and how they could use their own individual website to promote Title I meetings, to promote all of the information that they had, and they could delegate a person and they could be over all of that information. And the principals all had very positive feedback to give. Our last slide is a highlight of some of our partnerships that we've created and the people that we have built relationships that have invested in not only RMA, but also our students and seem to be there for us every time we need something. So if y'all, without further ado, if you have any questions, that is what I have. Okay, well, the next would be Mr.
Thank you.
Showers, with all of his. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, good morning and greetings to the board members and everyone today. We are excited about what we have experienced this past year with our career and technical education program. I would like to share a few of our highlights from our CTE programs. One, we grew our CTE programs from 3 programs of study to 6 programs of study from the 16 clusters that TE allows school districts to offer. So now we're offering 6 programs of study. Those programs of study includes our construction or architectural design program, as well as our AAVTC, which falls under our design and multimedia arts, and our printing and imaging program. We also have our business program, which are marketing and finance, as well as our human services program. And right now we currently have a minimum of 3 of those programs of study at each campus, each of our 9 campuses. Also, we wanted to share on today that beginning of this year, we was offering 14 courses across our CT classes and programs. But this year in 2021-22, we increased from 14 to 26 courses, which allows our students to receive a coherent sequence in all 6 of our programs. And what a coherent sequence, of course, is really simply means is our students are now receiving 4 classes attached to their CTE program, which is a level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 course. And what that simply means is by the time they take all 4 of the coherent sequence of courses, students have received enough instruction to be better suited to take an industry-based certification and get a certification as they graduate with RMA. Also, real quickly, our students in in the past 2021 school year, we had about 268 students enrolled in our CTE programs per term. This year, we increased that. I think it really benefited us by expanding our course curriculum and offering more courses because we increased CTE student participation by 103%. And as we ended the last term of this school year, over 543 students was enrolled into CTE programs. And you know, our ultimate goal with CTE is to be able to see more students be able to graduate with an industry-based certification or a level 1 certification or a level 2 certification. And so this year, over 150 students graduated with an industry-based certification, primarily with our OSHA 30 initiative that we did across the district, as well as we had students started at the Lubbock campus. We started a Microsoft Office certification program, and a few students was able to complete that program and get their certification in Microsoft Office. We had a student through our printing and imaging program at Pasadena campus to get their Adobe certification. And as mentioned before, with our partnership with Del Mar College, we had students able to get their EKG and phlebotomy certification. So we're looking forward to expanding our courses, utilizing the partnerships we have with our MOUs and community colleges to be able to offer students even more opportunities to receive an IBC or a certification with their CTE programs. Also want to share, if you can go to the next slide. If we took a quick evaluation and reflect back on where are we going next steps, since we've received so much momentum this past school year, we would like to continue by making plans to have a flagship CTE program at all of our campuses. As you know, the board, we adopted a printing and imaging program at Pasadena through Xerox. In the upcoming years, we would like to have a stapled flagship program at each one of our campuses. And so I am drafting out plans to present in the upcoming years for a signature program of like Xerox to be at all 9 of our campuses. Also, when we started this school year, less than 2% of our students was receiving industry-based certifications. So the plan is to continue to build upon those industry-based certifications, and hopefully we can double. We had over 150 students this year. The goal is to be able to double that for the next year with all the MOUs and partnerships we are exploring. Next slide, Becky. And this graph here shows you per program how many students per term has actively engaged in our CTE programs. Again, we went from 3 programs of study to 6. We went from 14 courses to 26. We went from offering just level 1 and level 2 courses to offering level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 courses. So those are the numbers for all of our programs of study and how many students that was enrolled per term in those particular programs and courses, which gives us a total this school year, over 2,170 students took CTE courses, which is record breaking for our district. And next slide. A few of the things I just wanted to touch because next year we're looking forward to expanding by developing an advisory board. Advisory board because our district, we receive Perkins 5 funds, federal funds that support CTE programs. One of the requirements is for us to have an advisory board. So next year we are looking to be able to partner with industry-based companies that's attached to our programs and establish a advisory board. That board will allow us to be able to have the insight on how the industries and all our programs are doing things. They'll be able to partner with us, provide our students with intern opportunities, be able to share keynote speakers for our students to learn directly from people that's in the industry. So we are very excited to be able to start and plan an advisory board for the 22-23 school year. Also, RMA will continue to promote post-secondary opportunities. After our students receiving these industry-based certifications, they are better suited to not only just go into the workforce, but transition to a 2-year junior college and get an associate's degree in that particular field of study. And we are looking to continue to offer multiple pathways. We can do this. Once again, we did a great job of partnering with Del Mar College to offer EKG and phlebotomy. Dr. Anderson mentioned earlier today that we are looking and partnering with Lone Star College to be able to expand and offer students other certifications that we can't offer due to the lack of facilities. So those students can get those hands-on experiences like cosmetology, for example. And as we continue to grow, we want to continue to invest in opportunities for our students to be able to get those particular certifications. Once again, this year we did a good job of partnering with third-party opportunities for our students to get OSHA 30 certification. So we're going to be looking for other quick wins and easy wins for our students to continue to get those industry-based certifications through our CTE programs. Is there any questions from the board at this particular time?
I have a question.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so you basically doubled the number of courses or the offerings that you have. Did you increase the number of employees in order to be able to do this? And are these classes offered online? Is that how students are getting them at all the campuses?
Actually, we have teachers, we have CTE teachers that are able to provide in-person and virtual instructions to students with the support of associate teachers at each campus. So our students take 90% of our CTE courses from a teacher.
Okay, so would you have, okay, I'm just trying to understand like how it's all set up. So you would have like a business teacher maybe at multiple campuses.
Absolutely. Our business teacher is Mr. Menendez. He's based out of our Lubbock campus. He also did this year, he did the Microsoft Office pilot program at the Lubbock campus. But in addition to that, he provided instructions to all of our other 8 campuses with those level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 courses that I was mentioning.
Okay, so I guess what I hear you saying is that you have some CTE teachers or a CTE teacher that is hired for a campus, but then they offer classes to the other campuses via internet. Is that
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Yes, through Microsoft Teams. That teacher is providing direct instructions for the students each day. And when the students finish listening to the instructions, they have the assistance of an associate teacher at that campus to work through their course work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions that relates to career and technical education?
And with the exception of the Delmar kids, they go across the street to the actual campus, right, Mr. Showers?
That's correct. They walk over. It's less than a 5-minute walk. So they are dismissed from our Corpus Christi campus and walk over to Delmar College. All right, thank you.
And last, it says student assistance programs and graduates is Ms. Smith. There was nothing in the book, but did she have a report? I know Dr. Givens had given.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all again. As Dr. Anderson did allude to, the information regarding the student assistance program is located on slide 36. And as stated previously, our usage did increase. However, our usage in comparison to the price that we pay for this program has not yielded us the results that we would have expected. So in anticipation of that, I have begun to research and look to form partnerships with community agencies and graduate programs that are located near our campuses for next year that will be able to provide us with in-person support for our students' social emotional needs as well as our staff needs. It's more of a dual edged sword, if you will. I remember being a graduate student and having to complete those hours. And so this will be a great opportunity, not only for our students, but for those who already have their counseling credentials and those who are seeking their counseling credentials as well. And so I'll be presenting a proposal regarding that program coming up soon. That's the utilization report of the last 2 years. And it is, once again, higher than it was last year. However, it is not the best use of our funds and yielding the best benefit for our students. As it relates to graduation, as of yesterday, we had 354 students who have met graduation requirements. Summer school is underway and the initial projection was that there will be at least 50 more students across the district who would meet graduation standards as they complete their incomplete courses, the credit recovery and or EOC coursework. So we are looking forward to seeing that number increase and grow. As I told Dr. Pritzker this morning, I'm in agreement with Dr. Anderson. We want to see that number move to 400, 500, 600 students, graduates each year. So we are pushing our students to complete their coursework in a timely manner. Are there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Dr. Anderson, that you would like to add to the annual State of the District report?
Oh, I just hope that this is this captures the work that's going on in the district and the many projects and areas of growth and just to let the board know that we are doing much to try and position our students to be as successful as possible.
And I would like to say something to the staff too. Thank you for putting all this together. This reflects a lot of work, a lot of time, and it was easy to read, easy to follow. So thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
And we'll be putting the link up, Dr. Putzka, on the website for the community and visitors to our website to also have access to this report.
Okay. Very nice. So are we ready to move on to our action items?
Yes, for the budget, which is Tammy, before she begins, because we did get this in the book in a week in advance, I have asked the central office to forego, and I'm recommending to the board that we forego our step increases, our annual step increases, to further increase the cushion of the budget. We're not able to give teachers significant raises, and so one of the things that we've done to hopefully kind of help is the retention bonus, of course, which we said $4,000, as well as the central office. We've increased their number of personal days, PTO days, and then when I first got here, as I shared with the central office, they used to work 240 days and we cut it down to 226, and so hopefully those things will help ease. But this budget does not reflect the amount, which would probably add around another $40,000, probably about $35,000 total. I can't remember the exact number to whatever the 67,000. So it would most likely put us around $100,000 surplus for now.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding. So you're saying that for this coming year, you have asked the central office staff?
I'm recommending to the board.
Okay. All right, but it's the central office staff only?
Yes.
Okay. They are to forego their
annual step increase.
Step increase. And so in the past, did you offer a retention bonus? That's not this coming year would not be the first time that you've offered that.
Yes, we did a $2,500 or $2,000 retention bonus last year for the district. Yes.
Okay.
Which is coming out of grant funds.
Right. And it will again for this coming year.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I will forego my comments. I think that once you put in place a pay, a pay scale, that it's almost like a contract that, people have an expectation. And what happens if you forego that step for 1 year, then that sets you back a year for the rest of your career. And even though you're replacing it with a retention bonus, that's a one-time, and that doesn't mean that every year from this year forward, they will get that retention bonus. Even though that saves some money, that's different for me. But
and that's why I wanted to make the recommendation. I'm not saying that has to, but I sent something just letting the staff know that I would be making the recommendation. If the board decides not to accept the recommendation, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Very good. And that was just me and my opinion, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Please. I kind of equate this to back in the day when they mandated the duty-free lunch for teachers. And many people wanted to ask the teachers on certain days to give up their duty-free lunch because they couldn't get a sub. And many teachers did it because they didn't want the kids to suffer. But finally, TA really cracked down. We mean a duty-free lunch, and you figure out how to do it and you get substitutes. And I think this equates to that. I think when you ask people to give up something, many will, but probably it's best not to ask them.
Are we giving the retention bonus for all staff members?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so they would still get their retention bonus, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, we get the 2,500. Okay.
No, it's 4,000 this year.
And, you know, back to this, overall, your budget, how much will your budget, the budget proposal is, the bottom line for this coming year?
The bottom line, our budget is 1 million, excuse me. It would be, we're looking at $17,122,000 or $141,000.
Say that again, please.
$17,141,549.
The reason I ask is if you're saving $35,000 out of a $17 million budget, that's not that much.
Mhm.
During the year, even though it may not be balanced right at this moment, you could easily make up $35,000 during the year. I mean, not easily, but you could. I mean, that's how budgets are. There will be money in categories left unspent. So it's not like if you don't have this 35,000 right at this moment, you should be able to make it up during the year. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I don't think it's a matter of the amount as much as trying to show some empathy for the teachers, because we're not able to give them a raise. So, I mean, like I say, I'm just making the recommendation, but I don't think that it's going to be a major impact. I agree with you wholeheartedly in that regard. So that's why it's not something that I'm just pushing for, but I did want to try and show a good faith effort towards our campus staff.
Okay, and when you said the staff would not be, or the campus staff would not be getting a raise, are you giving them their step increases?
Yes, the
Okay.
staff would get their step increases.
Okay. I will reserve the rest of my comments for later on, but go ahead. And any other comments, if anybody else has a comment, feel free to jump in.
Then I'm going to ask Tammy to go ahead with the budget again.
Okay.
And, and the board, once you approve the budget, I would just ask that you, once you approve the budget with the central office getting their steps or without central office getting their
Okay.
steps.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Okay, starting, we're looking at page 80. We're going to start with the proposed budget for Fund 240, which is our school breakfast program and national lunch program. The first column is the approved budget for 2021-2022, and the second column is our proposed budget for 22-23. We have estimated to keep revenues at $60,000. Although we used the same estimate for last year, our actual revenue was much higher in the actual year, as Amy Wood discussed in her State of the District presentation, because we received a higher funding rate offered by the seamless summer option. We have been made aware that funding is not continuing for next year. So we have chose to keep that funding at $60,000 the same. And then looking down at our expenditures, there is only one function code, which is function 35 for the school nutrition program. And the expenses that are included in that $162,755 include 1/2 of the salary for the Director of Student Services. It includes $85,000 for food purchases, $13,000 for supplies and equipment, $5,000 for permits and licenses, and another $5,000 for maintenance of our equipment. That would make up the expenses that go into that function 35 for Fund 240, our school program, school lunch program. Before I move on to Fund 420, does anybody have any questions on the school lunch program proposal? the budget proposal. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at page 81, which is you'll find the adopted budget for last year and the proposed budget for this year. This is for Fund 420, which we call our general fund. We have estimated attendance being funded at 1,443 students, which Dr. Anderson has talked about a little bit as going back to our pre-COVID days. This is very close to what our hold harmless was that TEA agreed to last year fund us at. So we're hoping to get back to normal next year. Our overall expenditures increased by $18,000. Looking at each function within this budget, we see the largest variances in function 13, which is increasing 11%. And this is because we have absorbed a district instructional coordinator in this function. And as most of the board knows, in previous years, our school improvement grant supplemented the expenses that it went into function 13. However, next year, the funding for that school improvement grant is going from approximately $525,000 that we received this year down to about $90,000. So that's a big change in that grant funding. And so we see that reflected here in this function code. Function 21 is increasing 54% next year. Since the board has approved the new executive director position, function 21 must be the coding that is used for that position going forward, which is reflected in that increase. Function 33 is increasing 38%. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Okay.
Ms. Thompson, you're oh, okay, now she's muted. I think she was off of mute.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Function 33, I show increasing 38%. This is primarily due to the new medical waste pickup that we have to have at all of our campuses, as well as CPR and AED training that is being conducted at our campuses, and all new safety kits that Mr. Tanton has talked about during his presentation as well. Function 51, we are increasing 14%. And this is related directly to inflation that we see for fuel maintenance and repair costs that are going on in all of our personal lives and also here at the district. So we project that to go up, as well as function 61, which is increasing for more community events that the campuses are requesting funds for, as well as our marketing department planning on RMA promotions and things going on in our local communities. We have decreased our debt service fund, which is function 71, by 21% because interest rates were very low when we consolidated all of those building loans into one note payment. So we were able to capitalize on those low interest rates at the time. And so that debt service is going down. So that is a basic summary of where we see some of the fluctuations going into this budget season. The budget, as we talked about, includes all of the increases, back to the conversation that we were just having. Although I didn't prepare a separate budget with after that recommendation came, I did go back and look at the different steps, and it is about almost $21,500 for those central office steps. And so if we were to deduct that, it would be on top of that $67,000. So about $21,500 was my calculation for about 19 central office positions in that number. So just wanted to give you that information and make that aware to you as well. Also wanted to just pass along that the retention bonuses, T-class payments, all of those things, those are not included in as TRS in our TRS salary. So they're excluded, they're TRS ineligible. So when TRS is looking at our salary, those things are not included. Does anybody have any questions on Fund 420 or Fund 240, the proposed budgets? or another discussion possibly about what Dr. Anderson has proposed? I can answer any more questions.
Move the slide up just a little bit, please.
Are you able to see the information you're needing to see, Ms. Thompson?
Move it up one more time, please.
Just so you all know, Tammy and I, we've massaged this budget. And we've cut out anything that we could to, so again, as I said to you before, much like the many mandates that's taking its toll on central office, it's starting to take a toll on the budget. TA gives these mandates without any funding. And so we're trying to.
Becky, let me see the bottom line, please. Move it up. I can't see it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, or if no further discussion, do you want to move forward?
Let me ask, just make sure I understand. So you need how many more students to walk in, to be enrolled next year in order to make this budget work? How many additional students from where we are right now?
About 230 students.
Okay.
I believe that's 240 ADA.
That's ADA, sir.
Which would equate to probably 500 or 600 students walking in.
This is the enrollment number here is 1,950. We have right now we have a 74% attendance. If we were to increase that percentage, that attendance percentage, that would also tweak that number a little bit. But this is ADA.
So my question is, the proposed budget is not based on the current ADA, is that correct?
It's based on ADA of 1,443 students, which is our very, very close to our hold harmless and pre-COVID numbers.
But Tammy, you correct me if I'm wrong, the 1208 was actually built off of what we got paid for by TEA during the COVID, correct?
That was before the true up, when hold harmless was announced throughout the year. It wasn't something going into the year that we were presented with. So as the semesters increased throughout the year, we got more information from TEA on how they were going to help fund us. And we ended up being funded on 1,424 students, if I'm not mistaken, for hold harmless, which was TEA's calculation of where RMA was for the 3 years prior to COVID. So we know this is attainable.
So the 14, we're confident that we can get our ADA back to that 1,400 mark for next year.
One of the reasons that you do keep a fund balance is because there will be a year when you cannot make your budget. I mean, that's reality. That will happen. Either there is a parking lot that needs to be paved, or there's something that will happen. And so you have a healthy fund balance. You have more than the minimum required. You feel confident about the numbers, but if it doesn't happen, you still have fund balance that you can draw on to make. It's not like you won't be able to make payroll. It's not like you won't be able to pay your bills or, you know, while TEA doesn't want you to spend it on anything like this, the bottom line is, you know, just practically speaking, you do have the money that you should be able to be, to allow you to make it. Go ahead, Tammy.
And many districts, Dr. Puskey, you know this, many districts are passing negative budgets.
Well, yeah, and you know, a lot of them do that just because that's what they've always done. Some very large districts, and they'll pass this negative budget, but at the end of the year, it'll be balanced, because what happens is they don't spend everything in every category. So I never had a board that wanted to pass a budget with a negative balance, but there are, you know, philosophically, there are a lot of school districts that do that. And then at the end of the year, it's balanced. But
and that's the thing, Dr. White, I'll say, you know, we could have brought the budget with the 1208 and it would have been a negative, but we after we discussed and we looked at where we were before COVID, we feel that we can get back up there. This year was not COVID free. It was challenges dealing with COVID this year, you know, and all the different variants. So I wouldn't ask the board to pass a budget that I don't think we can get to the 14 mark.
May I also add that RMA has an extremely healthy cash balance. Our cash, this budget doesn't have anything to do with cash. Our cash balance has always been over the 100 days. As you know, TEA only requires 60 days to get a full charter first score. So we've always been at over 100 days. And so our cash balance is also very, very healthy.
That helps. That's your liquidity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Gar, are you ready for a motion?
I am ready for a motion.
I've moved that we adopt the budget as presented and include the step pay raise for central office staff. That's my motion. And justification, I would say that the step includes people, it affects people's retirement. And you can't ever get that step back. When you get your 30 years, 35 years, and you've lost a step, you may or may not ever get it back. So, I know from past experience that in years prior, we have amended the budget during the year and had to do what we did if there was significant decline. One time we had a $50,000 fund balance. And so with $50,000 fund balance, we had to be really agile. And so I'm sure that leadership could do that again if it's necessary, but I don't think it'll be necessary. I think we are liquid and have a good fund balance. I think we're in good shape.
Well, and thank you for that motion. You know, and that's what you're saying and it's absolutely true. You're made a motion based on a strong historical record of what this organization's been able to do. And, you know, and there, we can thank previous administrations, we can thank previous boards that they've left us in this position. So that's good. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? I'm in favor. Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Francis White, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Nimick will join us for the closed session, if I'm.
That is correct, and I will have video on.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, well, we have a budget for next year, and like I said, you know, it's a tribute to the way that the organization's been run in the past, that, you know, you'll just have some years that's easier than others.
Right.
So that's okay.
Thank you.
Yes, adoption of updated RMA text policy, board policy series module 5, fiscal management. Tammy.
Hello. Okay, in board book, you will find the proposed RMA module 5 fiscal policy, as well as the original TPCSA module 5 fiscal policy. Each section of the TPCSA Model 5 policy was drafted independently and is available on their website as 21 different policies. We've combined all of those policies into one document and made a table of contents based on that combined file for one policy. The policy that RMA is proposing to the board for review and possible adoption has been streamlined to remove all of the repetitive wording since each section was drafted as an individual policy. It has also been modified for relevancy and applicability to RMA. The policy has been reviewed by the finance department, charter school success, as well as Dr. Anderson. Every independent policy that we have put together into the one policy has had the following sections removed and put towards the end. Training and updates, administrative procedures, the date of adoption, the effective date, and the retention and certificate. Since those sections appeared in every one of the policies, we've streamlined it and moved all of those things to the end of our proposed policy. Throughout this policy, you will also see some text in black font. These specific items were part of the RMA board-approved policy, the original policy from last year. Since previous board members asked that these items were added to that policy, we have also carried them forward and approved them and put them in this policy. I'd like to go over just a few examples of the things that we removed from the TPCSA policy for our proposed policy. One of those things you would find in board book on page 191 is section 5.130, section 19. There is a section, this section refers to the board approving travel expense reimbursements for district employees. It says, without exception, the board shall review and approve or disapprove an officer's request for reimbursement of travel expenses forms and required supporting documentation. The reason why we removed that in our proposal is because the board meets every other month and our staff needs their reimbursements much quicker than that. We do not want to put a burden on our staff to be out of their travel funds before we can have a board meeting to reimburse them, since RMA does not provide per diem for travel. So that's an example of one of the things that we did not put in our proposal because we didn't want to create that hardship on our staff. Another example is section 5.220, where the TPCSA policy talks about corporate credit cards for the district. It says, in authorizing the establishment of a corporate credit account, the board is not authorizing the delegate to pay.
Excuse me, Tammy?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Tell me where you are, please.
I'm on page 202 of the TPCS. So you were going all the way to the, I'm showing things that that we removed as examples. So if you look on page 202 in this section, if you scroll down to 3.2, I didn't get too close there. Okay, this section talks about the corporate credit cards. And it says that the board is not authorizing the delegate to pay corporate credit card issuers directly. Instead, the delegate shall require each employee authorized to use the corporate credit accounts to assume personal liability for all charges and then request reimbursement of those charges conforming to RMA policy and pay the issuer directly for the expenses charged to the corporate credit account. This is not the way RMA, our credit card procedure is laid out. We pay the credit card directly. Each employee that has a credit card at RMA does not accept personal liability for the RMA charges. We do not require our employees to obtain credit cards and accept personal responsibility for district business. So therefore, that's something that we took out of the TPCSA policy in our proposal. I have a couple more examples of things like that, but I don't want to take up too much more of the board's time. We did have a committee where we met to go over some of these things, but if there are specific questions, I can answer those, or I can continue. I can point out a few more examples if the board so wishes.
So let me make sure I understand. So with your credit cards, what you do is like, if I had, I don't know, a teacher that was going to travel somewhere, she would check out a credit card and then use that district credit card. And then does she turn it back in? Does she keep it? Does she, how does it actually work? Because she wouldn't charge anything personally on there, and you would not expect her to be personally responsible for that.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And that's where we differ. The credit cards at RMA are run through our bank affiliate, which is Frost Bank. So Frost Bank issues credit cards to RMA at our request. Currently, there are 4 credit cards that RMA has in the name of the district. And in an example that you have asked about, Dr. Puska, that would run through our executive director of instruction, Dr. Givens. Her card would be requested if that is an approved item that would be charged on her card. And so that's how it would work. And then RMA, my department, the finance department, once that reconciliation is submitted, we process that payment directly through Frost to pay that liability. Our employees do not have to have that personal liability themselves as far as a corporate credit card. We didn't feel that that was appropriate language for our staff members. So it's examples of things like that we have gone through and vetted this policy to make sure that we are not giving TEA or anybody that finds this policy on our website different information from the way that we are operating at RMA.
Comment, please.
Yes.
I've gone through these policies pretty closely, and we reviewed them as a committee and looked at them. I'm comfortable with the recommendations. I am comfortable with the credit card policy as I understand it right now. One thing the board loses with turnover, some historical perspective, one reason probably this was in, was a time in the past when a high-level person in RMA used a personal school credit card for $35,000, $40,000 in personal expenses. So I'm sure that at some point was a sensitive nature, but I think the system you're describing right now I'm comfortable with.
Thank you.
I do have a question before we get to it, though, on the motion to approve this. I'd like a little clarification on we're approving a policy and then allowing the superintendent or his designee to make necessary changes. I don't quite understand that.
We're allowing either you to approve it in its entirety or allow the superintendent to make changes as we go through the year. If he should be allowed to make those changes. Otherwise, if you do not approve that second motion, then anytime there is a change to fiscal management policies, it would come back to the board. Many of our RMA policies, the superintendent is authorized to make changes throughout the year.
I'll question that, but
yeah,
I think we approve a policy, and if there's a change, it comes back to us.
I agree with you. I think that that's the purpose of a policy, so that so that there is a management and oversight on the part of the board, and it's not like there would be any change that you couldn't bring to the board in a timely way. So that,
and Tammy, I don't
Yes.
know specifically what you would be referring to me changing. Could you give an example? Because
Well, as in that's the motion, I think, for the employee handbook, for instance, we make changes. You're authorized to make changes to that throughout the year as things happen. And this is just the same type of motion. If something is spelled out, like for instance, it's not that much detail in this fiscal policy, but if it were detailed, the mileage reimbursement rate, for instance, that falls under, the finance department. We don't have that specific level of information in this policy. However, in July, that's been changed by the IRS. And so mid-year, we are going from changing from January 1 rate, and in July, a new rate has been changed. So that's just an example of something, that may change. But in the handbook, for instance, Dr. Anderson may be authorized to make changes. That's the same motion here, but either way, that's up to the board, however you choose to.
I agree with the board in this case. I would prefer just bringing it back to them.
Right. And I think that there's a difference between fiscal policy and an employee handbook. There's some things that might pop up during the year that you're not aware of at the first of the year in dealing with employees. But, something like an official fiscal policy, I think that those changes do need to come to the board. It's my opinion. And let me also say, I greatly appreciate all the effort that the board members went in reviewing this policy. They take it very seriously. They look at it, they go through all the words, and especially those board members that have a history with RMA and remember those things that happened. And they do bring a perspective. But are there any other comments?
Well, I was just looking here. I guess it's kind of a catch-22. Major things, because actually governance policy 1 talks about sustaining changes or a non-significant impact on the facility or anything like that. So I don't know how that plays into this. So I kind of see what Tammy is saying, anything that's not major, but if the board wants us to bring it back to them, that's fine. So I don't know, as Tammy, I guess that would be what you were talking about.
The federal procurement, the federal policy that we have, also that was approved by the board last year, it can be altered by the superintendent as well. I'm offering both of those suggested motions here just based on the other policies that the board has approved, but by all means, the board is perfectly to accept either one of those motions. I simply used the language in previous policies that have been.
And so like say, I'm fine with either or. I just, I would think that if it was a substantial change, we would bring it to the board. If it's something that's not substantial, we would have the flexibility to change.
I am, this is not anything personal, it has nothing to do with the present staff, but I have witnessed over the last 40, 50 years, almost every way that someone can defraud a school district. And I think our responsibility as the board is to set these policies, and they should come back and thus have a particular oversight of finances. And it isn't personal at all, because this policy will be in place and maybe totally new central office staff. Probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there's been almost 100% turnover, probably 2 or 3 people on the central office staff are the only ones there. In 5 or 6 more years, when I'm gone and this present board is gone, these policies are in place, and I think they are pretty serious. And if there's a change, come back and we talk about it. And the board's always been a real place. I'm just not comfortable with allowing an open-ended financial policy.
Fair enough.
And so can I get you to make a motion then?
Yes, I will just make the motion. I move that we approve the financial management policy as recommended. Stop there.
Okay. Sounds good. Do I have a second?
Francis White, I'll second the motion.
Okay, very good. I vote in favor. Ms. Thompson?
She's on mute. Francis White, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And, all right. Sounds good. And like I said, thank you. Thank you for putting in a lot of work and effort. You know, and I have worked, as some of you have, in many different school districts. If there's a way to defraud and somebody has that intent, it's going to happen. You know, you deal with it when it comes up. But, okay, so let's look at approval of contract for the Edgenuity instructional platform. Dr. Givens?
If my volume starts messing up, just let me know and I'll take off my video.
Why don't you just turn your camera off, Dr. Gibbons?
Yeah,
That
it
way
is.
You don't have to
Okay.
keep doing that. Thank you.
All right. What I'm doing, this is a presentation to approve the contract for Edgenuity, our instructional platform. This is our primary platform for our courses. Almost all of our elective courses are provided through Edgenuity. Some of our CTE courses are provided through Edgenuity. It's a 3-year contract, and we managed to get it down from over $800,000 to $561,000 for a 3-year contract. I would like to add, with Edgenuity, we took great lengths this year to get our courses in line with our grading terms. We had found that was an issue. So we got all of our courses aligned. In addition, we started this year with an acceleration program, which allowed students, if they finished before term, to move on to the next course. With doing this, we have over 900 students who successfully completed courses through Edgenuity. And again, these things have contributed to the increase in successful completion of courses for our students, which is helping us with our graduation rate. So we're moving and asking and requesting that the board approve the contract renewal for Edgenuity. Any questions?
I have one question. Are there any soft courses in Ingenuity that could be used for parent involvement?
This current contract doesn't have any, but we could always look to see what they offer and see if that's a possibility.
Thank you. I'd like for you to research that, because we fall short sometimes with the parent involvement. And sometimes there are some soft courses that they may be interested in. You know, we could pull a list and invite them to participate.
Okay, and I'm assuming that this amount is already built into the budget for next year?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Very good. All right, so do I hear a motion for the approval of the contract?
Rose Thompson, I move the approval of the 3-year contract for Ingenuity effective August 1, 2022 through July 31st, 2025.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
Okay, very good. All in favor? I vote in favor. Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Francis White, yes.
Okay, Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. All right. So now we're ready to move to the approval of contract for the Renaissance software. Dr. Gibbons?
Thank you. Again, this is Renaissance. Renaissance is a software used as our universal screener. It's used to identify our students' abilities in math and reading proficiency levels. We also use it as a intervention for our students as well. It's called RTI, Response to Intervention. This year, I'm happy to say that we had over 2,600 tests administered. Over 75% of all of our students were screened using the Renaissance Universal Screener. In addition, our HB 4545 tutors use the platform for our tutorials for STAR EOCs. And the reason why I'm stressing this is because the year before, the use for Renaissance was nil. And I promised the board last year when I asked for it to be renewed that we would use it. And indeed, we have used it at a record pace this past school year. And so once again, I asked for a 1-year renewal of the Renaissance software platform.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
Francis White. I move the approval of Renaissance contract effective September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023.
Very good. Do I hear a second to that?
Bob Clemens, I second.
Okay, so let's all, it's time to vote and I vote in favor. Ms. Thompson?
Rose, yes.
Okay,
Francis White, yes.
okay. Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So now we're ready for the topic of relocation of the superintendent's office and renewal of central office lease. Dr. Anderson.
All right. Morning again. As you know, the lease for the central office will come to an end in September of 2023. And will be up for renewal. We'll be up for the lease renewal. This is the year that we're going to start going through the renewal for our charter. This coming September, October, we'll start the renewal for our charter. And so hopefully we will have that out of the way and we'll have a 10-year discretionary charter renewal is the hope, and that's what we're all working towards and we'll be trying to make sure takes place. Upon the expiration of the central office lease, which we currently pay around $6,000 for just the lease and then utilities and all those things, I am asking the board to approve for the central office to relocate to basically a shared space office, so that we have a facility where mail and things of that nature can go, and a receptionist, if you will, and a meeting place for whenever there may be a need for a central office to meet. Before I came, the central office worked remotely from home. And when I came here to San Antonio to take this position, the board desire was that the central office would eventually relocate to Fort Worth, which has not happened. What was supposed to have been a 1-year, 2-year deal is now going on 4 years. And so I'm asking the board to approve for me to relocate the central office of the superintendent's office to Fort Worth, and I would work at the Fort Worth location. And then those that remain here in San Antonio to return back to working remotely from home, with the exception of anyone deemed essential. Well, who would be the essential people? Again, would be someone to staff as a secretary or receptionist or administrative assistant to staff the satellite office or the shared space office. And then anyone that is proven that they can't work from home remotely with diligence would then be obligated to report to the satellite office as well.
So do you have any idea where the satellite office will be?
Well, once approved, the satellite office would be here in San Antonio. Once approved, then we would begin to secure that, try and look for that location, and in hopes of cutting the cost of what we're paying now down tremendously.
So where do you have your technology hub?
Technology hub is here.
Okay.
The servers at the main service, Carl, isn't that correct? I don't want to misspeak. Carl. Is Carl on?
Is Liz there?
We can come back and get an answer to that in a bit. Other questions the board members might have.
I have a question for discussion. And I was here when we started the conversation of the TEA was going to make a recommendation that if there was a school, that the central office had to be where there is a school. And that's where we started this conversation about 4 years ago, that we would move the central office and move it to someplace where we have a school. And then they said there was no possibility that we were going to get a school in San Antonio anyplace soon. And that's where all this conversation started. And on a side note, I think it's a good idea, but my wish is not for RMA employees to become dismissed because of where we are and what we're doing. As long as they are doing their work in a proficient manner, I don't think that they should have any anxiety about where they're going to work or if they're going to be dismissed because of this. Maybe if somebody left by their own wish or because they're not doing the work or whatever the cause is, then maybe you could hire them at another location or in another city. But until that happens, it is not my wish for any RMA employee to be dismissed because of a move in the central office.
And that's why they would be working remotely. That's why we've decided to let them work remotely.
I'm back, Dr. Anderson.
Well, the question was, are the technology hub is here, are the main servers here in San Antonio, or where are they at?
They're in Odessa.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The discussion was, or there were mentions of like where mail would arrive, and I just wondered where the hubs were. So yes, that's good. I think also that what we have learned over the last 2 years is that people can work and meetings can be held, and people can be effective working from home. Maybe not all job categories, but a good number of them can. If you can save some money on facilities by having people work from home, that's also helpful. But it does make supervision more challenging. And so, Dr. Anderson, I'm just curious, how will you supervise when you won't be physically present? I know that you've thought about that.
Well, again, you got to remember, I have Dr. Givens and her academic team in Houston, Texas. And so much of the same through meetings, through productivity, evidence of productivity, and just, being aware of what's going on in the district.
I think this is becoming common with a lot of, I have friends who work for Facebook, and they seem to manage quite well by not being in the office only periodically. And I know some organizations are saying, yes, we can do this and we can do it efficiently. And then there are some who say, maybe we can't do it. And I think the ones who are here saying that they are new companies who are hiring new people, like Elon Musk. He wants all of his people to go back in until they probably get some kind of continuity in who he's working with. But I think it can work.
Yeah. And again, like I said, like what I do with the personnel in Houston, I would still come and meet face to face. It wouldn't all be virtual meetings, it would be face to face. We have we do the annual evaluation system where we have the, beginning of the year goals set, mid-year, and then the end of the year evaluations. And then, like I say, through, our virtual meetings, and then through, productivity. you know, when things aren't getting done, then that leads to another conversation that if I can't depend on you to do your job from home, as Ms. Thompson said, you know, then I have a responsibility as the leader to say, you know, this isn't going to work for you to be working remotely, and either they go to the satellite office and work daily, or they go home without pay and start looking for another line of work.
From my experience of being on the board, this is not anything new. RMA has been essentially working like, from this perspective, ever since I've been on the board, up till the past few years.
You know, I think that, you know, we have, I think it's an idea whose time has come. I think it helps with the TEA idea that you need to have your central office where you have one of your campuses. It's an idea that comes around periodically, as I understand it. This is also a measure of trust between the board and Dr. Anderson, in that if you see things going awry and you don't like the direction that it's taking, that you come to the board and you say, you know, we tried this working from home and it's not worked out. And so I think that, you know, I feel comfortable saying that, you know, it will be a different way of supervising than you've had to do entirely, but, you know, you've done this for the last 2 years too, during COVID times. And, you know, for some employees that work are very diligent, it's almost like you might need to watch them that they don't work too much when they're at home, because there is a propensity to do that if you know, you're really dedicated. But then, you know, it's just part of that supervision.
If I can make
Go ahead.
an assessment from what I've noticed during the pandemic, I think I've seen a higher level of productivity in many areas. That's just from my observation from where I stand. We've done a lot, and you know, this is still kind of, I don't even know if we're post-pandemic yet, and we have done a lot of stuff with the strategic plan and all of the stuff that we're doing, and even in this climate, we've made progress in so many areas. So that's my assessment.
It's Bob Clemens. I'll make a comment. This is kind of a major change for me, for my lifetime style. Kind of building on what Dr. Huska said. I remember back in the day when schools became aware they were subject to wage error laws. For many years, they didn't think they were. And whenever superintendents had to start telling their secretary, you got to go home at 4 o'clock. You've already got in, we can't pay you overtime. And they would get their feelings hurt because they wanted to steadily got their job done.
Right.
So from that respect, I don't think people have changed. I think people who produce. People who don't produce,
they're not going to produce.
They're not going to produce. Now, I'm willing to give this a try for a couple of years, depending on Dr. Anderson, make it work. And if it doesn't work after a couple of years, we have a kind of a mess right now. This conversation took place when we moved from Austin to San Antonio. It's taken place several times in San Antonio. And so it can rock along for a couple more years to give this a try. And at some point, if it doesn't look like it's working, Dr. Anderson doesn't feel like it is, or the board doesn't feel like we can come back and readdress it. And if, you know, my druthers, I would rather have all the satellites be on campus somewhere, so that central office was at a campus, if they're in 8 locations, and they'd be a sort of part of the team and a part of the school and part of the environment, but that's not practical right now. But so short term, couple of years, I'd like to give this a chance. I would like to see some cost figures on what the new satellite office and the Fort Worth location are going to cost, or where they're going to be located. Those type of things before we.
Mr. Clemens, I would work out of the Fort Worth campus, so it won't be any. I would just have an office there somewhere.
I think that's great. I think that's good.
So I would you know, office there. And as far as this, before we started looking for satellite locations here, I just wanted to get the board's approval, and we'll bring that information back on what the savings would be. for this from the current central office lease.
From a psychological point of view, I think it will work. And I just don't want to see the anxiety of the people who are on board now wondering about what's going to happen to me. And I think if you're working and doing what you're supposed to be doing, you will be safe. And working from home, and there are some advantages to both sides of what's going on now and what we're trying to look for in the future. And I would say that if by attrition, if somebody decides they don't want to be here, that we would start hiring somebody in the Fort Worth location or wherever our central office is going to be.
I think those are all great suggestions. And I do appreciate what you said, Mrs. Thompson, about you want to make sure that all of our employees understand that this is not a way for us to, to get rid of their position. That is not our intent. Our intent is to keep the employees as long as they're doing their job until the time they choose to retire. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Any other questions, any other comments? If not, I will hear a motion about relocation of the superintendent's office and renewal of the central office lease.
Francis White, I'll make the motion. I move to approve of the relocation of the superintendent's office to Fort Worth, as well as the approval to allow the superintendent to make the necessary work arrangements for the San Antonio-based staff.
Do I hear a second?
Rose Thompson, second.
Okay, very good. And let me say I'm in favor, so I'm voting yes. Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. White?
Francis White, yes.
And Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, I think that this is an interesting time, and there could be substantial savings to this as well. So thank you. Okay, so I'm going to need help with the next one. It is introduction of a new board, and I think that you might have met a new board member. And Dr. Anderson, can I ask you to introduce a new board member? I think you did last meeting. I wasn't here, but can you tell us a little bit about this? Because this is my last meeting. And
no, it's not.
I've enjoyed it. I have, but I'm going back to school. So isn't that what everybody does in their retirement? But Dr. Anderson.
Well, I still envy Dr. Putzka. She's getting the most out of retirement, and she's living her best life, I think. And so we certainly thank you, Dr. Putzka, for your service on the board and the leadership you've provided this year as the president of the board. You've been more than flexible. She drives, what is it, like an hour to get here to the San Antonio office?
2 hours, yes.
She has done it, and she's done it faithfully. And so we certainly will miss you and your knowledge of education. And she told me, she says, I realized I'm retired and I don't want to do this. So she wants to spend her retirement doing fun things. So we certainly respect that. I was in Corpus at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, a Buenos Dias event, and I had the opportunity at City Hall to meet Ms. Pearson, and she was highly respected in the Corpus area. People that I talked to had nothing but great things to say about her. She's tied in there socially to the community. And when she came to our school, I invited her, and the next day she said she would come, and that next day she showed up while I was in Corpus. We gave her a tour, and she began to share with me her story and how it so much related to the student of RMA, the type of student RMA serves. And she also shared with me her background, which is in business and in marketing. And because of her community involvement and her expertise in industry and business, once Dr. Putzka informed me that she would be stepping off the board, I immediately reached out to Miss Pearson and asked her if she would be willing. And she was so excited and so eager to do it. And I just believe she has a lot to offer to the students of RMA and to the organization. She was the keynote speaker for us at the Corpus graduation, and a very impactful and encouraging speech she gave. And so I would like to ask Miss Pearson if she would turn on her camera and her microphone and just have a few words at this time. We would like to recommend her as the replacement for Dr. Putzka's board seat, not necessarily her position, but her seat on the board. Ms. Pearson, are you on?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone. So very nice to be with you today, and thank you for the invitation as well. Definitely, what Mr. Armand said is correct. I am looking forward to make a difference with RMA, and highly believe in, with students, for example, that some of them don't have the guidance that's necessary, and what I push here in the community basically is that anyone can prosper. Really, it's all about mentality and pushing your way forward and looking for the right tools. And so I hope to bring those right tools and represent RMA well. Currently, I sit on the Sister City Committee for the City of Corpus Christi. I am also the Director of Tourism for the City of Portland, and highly involved with my community, and especially within the Latino community here in Corpus Christi. Anywhere where I can help you, and especially in the area of marketing or media here in the region, I can definitely, it is my pleasure to move RMA forward and in any way I can.
Well, thank you. Comments from other board members?
Welcome aboard.
Dr. White, you said?
I just say welcome.
Thanks, sir.
You know what? It's a good district with a good mission. I appreciate the fact that it speaks to your heart. So, Rose, did you have?
No, I read your resume and I think it's a perfect fit for what we need right now. So I'm excited.
No, absolutely. And I really want to encourage, especially young children or high schoolers, that there's so much to be in this world and to see and do. And it's amazing. I'm really happy to be part of this. Thank you.
At some point you might want to look at it, and I don't know how difficult this would be, adding additional board members so that you can get representation of maybe somebody from Odessa, Amarillo, so that, you truly have people on the board that, are from everywhere where there is a campus. I don't know how difficult that is, but, you might want to consider that in the future. But this says introduction of the new board member. Is this something that we need to take a vote on?
Yes, the board would have to vote to accept Ms. Pearson as your replacement as a new board member.
Okay.
Bob Clemens, I move that Ms. Pearson be approved to serve on the board of directors for the RMA effective July 1, 2022.
Very good.
Filling your slot, whatever that would be.
Okay. And do I hear a second?
Rose Thompson, second.
Okay, very good.
You muted.
I'm muted. Okay, and I vote in favor.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Okay. Dr. White?
Francis White, yes.
And Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you and welcome aboard. We're glad you were able to join us today.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ms. Pearson. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, don't leave, Ms. Pearson, because there's
I'm
an
here.
election of officers.
Okay, Dr. Anderson, I know that you've had some conversations. Do you have a slate of officers that you would like to put forward?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, if the board would accept the nominations, I would nominate Mr. Bob Clemens to serve as president for the 22-23 year. I would also like to nominate Mr. Donald Nemick to serve as the vice president for the 22-23 school year. And then I would open the floor for the other board members to nominate themselves for the position that they desire to hold.
Rose Thompson, treasurer.
And what other position is there?
Secretary and assistant secretary.
Okay.
Mr. Tom, what did you select, treasurer?
I said treasurer, yes.
Okay, so what's left, secretary?
Secretary and assistant secretary.
I'll select secretary.
And so that leaves me with the assistant secretary.
Okay.
Is that right? Or is there more?
And Rebecca does a really good job of keeping minutes and doing all that for you. So that's good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
So
And we would have to vote.
we have a slate of officers that have been recommended and volunteered. And so can I hear a motion to approve the slate of officers?
I move that we approve and accept the slate of officers that have been stated previously.
Okay. In a second?
Rose Thompson, second.
All in favor, and I say yes.
Yes.
Francis,
Okay.
Thompson, yes.
Francis White, yes.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Okay, now then it is time for us to talk about the board calendar for the 2022-23 school year. And Dr. Anderson, there are basically 8 board meetings during the year.
Yes. We have one in July, September, November, February, April, and June. So there's 6 on the calendar for this year. We've tried to do a better job because this year we had the board meeting in, I think, April, May, and June and July. So we worked very diligently to try and alleviate that. So we're proposing the dates as outlined on the calendar. The first regular board meeting of the new year would be July 29th. Then September 30th, November 10th, February 17th, April 21st, and then June 15th or the 16th, whichever the preference of the board is. Also, we surveyed the board and it was majority was okay with doing every other meeting in person. And so we will be asking board members to, right now it's looking like we would keep it in Austin, Texas as the place at region, was that 13, Becky?
13.
Yes, region
Yes, sir.
13. We would keep it there. And so those board meetings would be every other month in person. And then the off months would be in virtually. Also, just to add some dates that's not reflected on the calendar, we are proposing to do a board orientation this year. And we're, if the board approves that, we would like to bring the board members together to just kind of go over Robert's Rules of Order, go over governance and board responsibilities, as well as try and help you get some of your governance hours out of the way earlier so that it's not so tedious. If you choose not to go to the charter conference, you would still have pretty much your minimum required board hours out of the way. So we're asking the board to approve the proposed board calendar, if everyone's okay with that. And also, I would just like to get your feedback on a in-person orientation, board orientation retreat, if you will, which would probably be about a day and a half, no more than 2 days. It would be, we're planning to set it up for a day and a half orientation in person. Any input on the orientation?
Bob Clemens, I'm in favor of it.
The site has not been selected as of yet, Dr. Anderson, just approve.
No, we may very well try and do it in Houston or wherever a campus is. We probably will try to do it just so some of the board members can see. Like Dr. Putzka said, the Houston campus is beautiful. We could do like a site visit to Pasadena and Houston if we had it there, but we haven't determined the location yet.
Okay.
Or it may be in San Antonio.
And I like the idea of you, the board getting together as a group in person, even though it might be less convenient, it helps. It helps. You know, it's nice meeting virtually. However, you just, you miss a lot whenever you're not around the other board members. So that's good. Okay, do I?
Well, let
any
me,
other
Dr.
comments?
Putzka, if I could, any other input, on the orientation being no more than a 2-day orientation? Anyone oppose? Because we want to go ahead and start planning that and throw some dates out if everyone's on board to participate. Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Bob Clemens, I so move.
Okay, and second?
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
Okay, and all in favor? I'm in favor.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Okay,
Francis White, yes.
and Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. So those are our action items. Our next will be a closed session. I propose that we take a little bit of a break, maybe 5 to 10 minute break, and then let's say at 12:35, get back together again. Is that enough?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if that's okay, and we'll get back together with just the board members first, and then we'll visit with you, Dr. Anderson. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. See y'all in about 10 minutes then.
Dr. Putzka,
Yeah.
could we invite Miss Pearson in that closed session when you all meet with me so she can kind of see how the evaluation process goes for the next year?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
For us to go ahead. Okay.
Yes,
And at this time, I would like to go into closed session. And so nobody but board members join us for this part of the discussion, because there's some work on the evaluation that we need to do. And who are we're waiting on Dr. White and also Mr. Nemec.
Okay.
As soon as
Yeah.
they join us, then we'll go ahead and get started on the closed session.
Okay, Dr. Putzka, all board
No.
members should have received a little message from the host inviting you to join the closed session.
Okay.
And if somebody can just send me a little text message or something, and I'll know to let Dr. Anderson join you.
Okay, so the time is 1:47. Closed session has been completed, and we're ready to come back into open session. We were in closed session for the superintendent's evaluation, and let me just say generally that we are pleased with the superintendent. And we are pleased with the job that he's done and the direction that the school district is taking. We did charge him in closed session to come back to the board in July with something that he's going to look at what can be done for teachers and teacher retention and teacher salary. And so he will be bringing back a recommendation in July, but this would be for the teachers. But besides that, we are very pleased with the direction that the school district is going in. And anyway, thanks to all, thanks to everyone, because it's a group effort, most definitely. I have on my agenda that we are now ready for public comments, but I don't think that anybody has signed up for public comments.
If I may, Dr. Putzka,
Yes.
I failed to recognize one other person, and I would do so at this time. Dr. Nanette Coleman, who is the principal of our Killeen campus, has accepted a central office position with another charter district. And so she will be leaving us at the end of this month to go and take on her new role as Director of Academics with another charter district. And so we certainly want to thank her for her service and the work that she has done for RMA over the past 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for Friday, July 29th at 10 a.m. And if there is no other business, then I would like to adjourn this meeting.
You can stop recording, Mary.
Thank you all. Have